Hey everyone, per your requests, I'm starting Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San, chapters 941 through 960 of the previous episode. The Great Auction continues as the Golden Mammoth Demon Emperor takes the stage, showcasing items of immense value. Amidst high-stakes bidding, Tang San and Mei Gongzi secure several divine treasures, including the coveted Throne of Frost, though Tang San deliberately forces prices up to drain the resources of rival clans like the Dragons and Phoenixes. As the auction progresses, Tang San's presence and tactical maneuvers, particularly his ability to neutralize the Adamant Nymph Emperor's influence, solidify his status as a key player. He strategically leverages the Blue Gold Tree clan's newfound authority and the Ancestral Tree's awakening to build a foundation for humanity's future. With the battle for the throne matchmaking tournament looming, Tang San and Mei Gongzi prepare to secure their ascension, aiming to reshape the Demon Continent's political landscape. If you're able to, please support me on PayPal to help me stay active. Thank you. Now let's get back to the story of Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San audio series. The moment that Black Sword appeared, Tang San felt a subtle tremor ripple through him, not from his own divine consciousness, but from the projection of the Azura Sword. The will of the Azura Sword, although currently housed in Mei Gongzi's Sea of Consciousness, was still deeply linked to Tang San. Could it be artifact resonance? Tang San was genuinely shocked. Since coming to this world, it was the first time he had experienced something. Even in the God realm, such occurrences were exceedingly rare. Artifact resonance. Others might not have understood what it meant, but as a former God King, Tang San was well aware. It meant that there was perfect compatibility between two artifacts, and not only that, but they were likely at the same level. A transcendent divine item? Could this black sword actually be one? How is that possible? While Tang San was in shock, in VIP room 11, Mei Gongzi had already stood up in astonishment. Her surprise far exceeded Tang San's, since her connection to the Azura Sword was even stronger. When Tang San felt the resonance, she felt it even more acutely. The Azura Sword was actually humming in her sea of consciousness. Mei Gongzi didn't fully understand what the sword was telling her, but one thing was crystal clear. She had to win this sword. It was connected to the Azura Sword. The divine weapon itself even transmitted a sense of longing to her. How could she let it slip away? On the auction stage, the Golden Mammoth Demon Emperor began to speak. In front of you is the Shadow Fiend's sword. It's a high-grade divine artifact. Specifically, it's the foundational divine item of the Shadow Fiend clan. As most of you know, the Shadow Fiends are not exactly a popular clan, and there have recently been sightings of them within the Ancestral Court. Many recent thefts are believed to be their doing. This Shadow Fiend sword once belonged to their clan leader, who had the audacity to attempt a theft from an emperor. That leader was ultimately slain by said emperor, and this artifact has remained in the Ancestral Court's possession ever since. It is now up for auction in this grand auction. This artifact has multiple abilities. For one, it allows the wielder to become nearly invisible, which makes it ideal for assassination. It's also exceptionally sharp and can suppress divine consciousness, which means it is particularly lethal against it. The emperor who defeated its previous wielder nearly fell victim to this ability. However, this artifact is extremely domineering. Using it can and will result in backlash. Without enough strength to suppress it, do not attempt to wield it. At minimum, one must be at the 11th order and have an outstanding physique. Bidding begins at 2,000 amethyst coins. Minimum increments of 100. Let the bidding begin. The introduction was brief and honest with no excessive hype. The artifact's unique attributes were clearly laid out, and the price was reasonable. Yet when bidding officially started, the room fell into brief silence. Any divine weapon would attract bidders. But the Shadow Fiend sword was different. First, there was the issue of its origins. As the foundational item of the notorious Shadow Fiend clan, it was essentially tainted. Though the Ancestral Court now possessed it, few would want to publicly flaunt owning it. Moreover, the Shadow Fiends had, in fact, tried and failed repeatedly to steal it back. Second, while its powers were formidable, it posed real risk to the user. The Golden Mammoth Demon Emperor had been honest enough to warn that even demon kings might not be able to control it. That, coupled with its long disuse by any emperor, spoke volumes. 2,100 amethyst coins. The bid came from the Behemoth clan's VIP suite. Given what Crystalline had revealed earlier, Tang San immediately understood who the bid was for. Lan Maqian wanted the Shadow Fiend sword. She clearly met all the usage requirements. A powerful body, great demon king cultivation, and an elite bloodline. But if there was one item at this auction that Tang San was absolutely determined to obtain, it was this one. The sword's resonance with the Azura sword was reason enough, even if it didn't turn out to be a transcendent divine artifact. Tang San had to secure it, for Mei Gongzi's sake, and to study it closely. Before he could act, Mei Gongzi had already begun bidding. 2,200 amethyst coins. The behemoths raised without hesitation. 2,300. 2,400. Mei Gongzi showed no sign of backing down. This was her first bid of the day. With the Etherheart Merchant Association behind her, Kali City's resources were not to be underestimated. Since Mei Gongzi had entered the bidding, Tang San would not compete directly, and just as he had expected, no other competitors emerged. While unquestionably powerful, the Shadow Fiend sword was simply too niche. The two continued exchanging bids rapidly, and the price soon exceeded 3,000 amethyst coins. Even the Golden Mammoth Demon Emperor looked surprised. In his mind, the sword was worth maybe 2,000. Had this not been the mega auction before a mega event, it might have failed to sell altogether. But now? It was hotly contested. VIP Room 11, 3,300. VIP Room 6, 3,400. Lan Maqian wasn't letting go. Sky-splitting City was no pauper. The Behemoth clan was among the 3 strongest demon clans, with deep roots tracing back to ancient times. VIP Room 11, 3,600. Instead of toning down, Mei Gongzi actually leaped by 200. For Kali City, this was quite a significant sum. VIP Room 6, 3,700. Lan Maqian remained unshaken. She clearly had her eyes set on this sword. Before Mei Gongzi could respond, a thunderous bid stunned the hall. VIP Room 8, 5,000. Until now, only the blue gold fruit had reached that price. And now, the one placing the bid was none other than the Blue Gold clan leader. A collective gasp swept through the audience. Reckless extravagance. Truly reckless extravagance. Everyone knew by now that the Blue Gold Tree clan was rich. After all, they just earned 25,000. But to drop 5,000 on a single item immediately after? That was madness. This was a fortune that could buy a large-sized city. Then came Tang San's voice from VIP Room 8. City Lord Mei, please don't bid further. I will take this item and offer it to you as a token of respect for our first meeting. In VIP Room 11, the moment Mei Gongzi heard that 5,000 bid, her vision nearly went black. But the next moment Tang San's words made her freeze. A 5,000 amethyst coin gift? She thought back to his passionate gaze earlier, and her expression darkened considerably. The Blue Gold Tree clan isn't much in terms of strength, but they're certainly rich, chuckled Luo Qingzhu. Well, what can I say? Let him buy it if he wants to. But Mei Gongzi shook her head firmly. No. I can't accept something from someone else so casually. VIP Room 11, 5,100 amethystin coins. Mei Gongzi continued to raise the bid, expressing her unwavering stance. In VIP Room 8, Tang San felt a mix of helplessness and relief. As expected of her. But also damn, well I guess I tried. Meanwhile in VIP Room 6, no one continued to bid. The current price had already far surpassed the actual value of the Shadow Fiend sword. Naturally, Tang San wouldn't bid again either. 5,100 amethystin coins going once. 5,100 amethystin coins going twice. 5,100 amethystin coins. Sold. Congratulations to VIP Room 11. The Golden Mammoth Demon Emperor announced the final result with a hint of incredulity. They could afford to pay so much just for a divine weapon? The Peacock Demon clan truly was wealthy. But forking out over 5,000 amethystin coins in one go must have been a major strain on their resources. Mei Gongzi's expression was indeed a little sour, but she had no choice but to take the Shadow Fiend's sword. She let out a cold snort and said hatefully, Jean Miaolin of the Blue Gold Tree clan, just you wait. Don't let me see you in the tournament. In VIP Room 8, Tang San touched his nose helplessly. Jean Miaosin whispered, Big brother, Did the ancestral court order you to hike up prices? You'd better be careful not to make too many enemies. Aren't you still hoping she'll become my sister-in-law? I think you're out of luck this time. Look, I really did want to give it to her, Tang San said, feeling exasperated. Jean Miaosan chuckled. Well, if people could win a girl's heart just by giving her gifts, it would be pretty easy, wouldn't it? If you can't win in the martial tournament, there's nothing to be done. Better find another sister-in-law. Mei Gongzi is probably a lost cause for you. If there wasn't a martial tournament, maybe money could sway things a bit, but with that tournament... Sigh. Big brother, you have to face reality. Tang San knew that Jean Miaosan's reasoning was perfectly sound, judging from Jean Miaolin's situation, but it still felt unpleasant to hear. 5,100 amethystine coins. A new record high that set the venue buzzing with excitement again. Everyone had just had a break, so the bidders were in peak condition, ready for the next item. Bring up the next auction item, the Golden Mammoth Demon Emperor said in a deep voice. The Shadow Fiend sword sank away and disappeared. A new platform slowly rose, revealing a new item for auction. This was put up for auction by the Adamant Nymph clan. It's called the Adamant Heartshield Mirror, and as the name implies, it's a piece of armor. It is not a divine item, but its defensive abilities are at the level of an ordinary divine item. It also enhances the wearer's overall defense by at least 20%. When activated with one's bloodline power, it forms an adamant shield over the skin. It was a piece that looked like a crystalline half-sphere, radiating a soft glow. It definitely fit the description, although it was rather on the large side for something that was created to protect just the heart. The starting price is 300 amethystine coins. Each raise shall be no less than 10 amethystine coins. Bidding begins now. Hearing this starting price, many bidders felt inexplicably relieved. Finally, something that wasn't some priceless treasure. If everything was that rare, their hearts would be unable to take it. 310 amethystine coins. For an item Tang San had no interest. A single area defensive item was great for warriors who fought mainly with their bodies, and the Adamant Nymph clan did make quality goods, but it wasn't something worth competing for. In the end, the Adamant Heartshield Mirror sold for 600 amethystine coins. The next few items were actually not divine items, but they were all special pieces of equipment that could match divine items in certain aspects. For those who needed them, they were practical and affordable, and they quickly found buyers. The Golden Mammoth Demon Emperor didn't bother with lengthy introductions. He just outlined the basic features of each item. But with this auction's exceptional caliber and the bidders' eagerness, every item sold for a good price. Through Tang San's divine consciousness, he could tell that once the second round of evening auctions started, most of the emperors had already left the upper-level VIP suites. From that alone, he could tell this second round didn't have anything truly earth-shattering. After observing for a while, he began meditating in his suite. Nothing particularly caught his eye. The only thing that still puzzled him was the Shadow Fiend's sword. A weapon capable of resonating with the Azura sword could not possibly be an ordinary item. Even if it wasn't a transcendent divine weapon, it was surely related to one. Yet, the emperors didn't seem to care much about it, and were obviously unaware of its true power. This oversight had allowed Tang San and Mei Gongzi to snag it at a bargain. The auction continued late into the night. By the end, everyone was weary and most chose to meditate on their seats to recuperate, waiting for the next day's excitement. It was not comfortable, but they couldn't do much about it. As for the VIP rooms, they had much better conditions, so those who used them had a lot less to complain about. After a day of auctioning, Tang San's main hall was the Throne of Frost and 2 substitute lotus seeds. They were both items he didn't need for himself, but others had plenty of use for them. But the money in the Blue Gold Tree Clan's vaults had not diminished. Instead, it had actually increased. After all, he'd sold a bunch of blue gold fruits for no less than 30,000 amethystine coins. He even wondered if he'd be able to spend it all at this auction. The night passed without incident, and early the next morning, the entire auction house was bustling once again. With the place packed to the brim, it was a noisy affair even before the auction officially began. According to the rules, this was also the time for bidders who had participated the previous day to settle their payments and collect their winnings. This was not really common practice, but for the sake of ensuring things were transferred to the new owners and money was transferred to the sellers, And the auction house, of course, without mistake or any possibility of fraud, the Grand Auction Hall was implementing this system for the time being. Tang San quickly washed up and, accompanied by several elders, headed for the transaction area of the auction house. Even in this Grand Auction Hall, so long as there were no emperors around, no one could guarantee there wouldn't be trouble. Shadow fiend demons could be lurking anywhere. Certainly, while the items were still under the auction house's care, it was their responsibility to ensure safety. But once the item changed ownership, it was up to the new owners to protect their purchases. The auction house bore no responsibility. Naturally, even Tang San was extremely cautious. He chose a slightly later time to pay and collect his items to avoid the lines. VIP room bidders had a separate transaction area, apart from the general crowd, so that also spared him some headache. When he arrived at the auction house's settlement area, he saw two groups ahead of him. One of them was Mei Gongzi's group. She was accompanied by her mothers, along with the other two great demon kings from the Peacock Demon clan. It was a truly formidable entourage. Besides them, the other group was the Behemoth clan's representatives from VIP Room 6. Donghua was there with Lan Maqian and several other behemoths, finishing up their transactions, and just as Tang San arrived, they ran straight into Mei Gongzi's group. Lan Maqian's gaze fell on Mei Gongzi, instantly turning icy. The Peacock Demon clan has no emperor, but you sure have plenty of money. Mei Gongzi looked at her calmly, fully understanding the reason behind the provocation, and smiled faintly. My city is just a little countryside town, really. How could we possibly compare with Sky-Splitting City? Lan Maqian let out a cold laugh. You'd better be careful in the upcoming martial tournament. If a woman among the top 3 chooses you, that would be rather embarrassing.
Mei Gongzi smirked.
Are you talking about yourself? I don't think that's very likely. Lan Maqian raised an eyebrow. You're awfully confident, aren't you? Mei Gongzi paid no further attention to it, instead turning to Donghua and saying, City Lord Jin, it's good to see you again. Only then did Donghua take 2 steps forward, arriving in front of her. City Lord Mei, it's been a while. I have to say you're as radiant as ever. This is my cousin Lan Maqian. She is young and brash and she doesn't understand her own rudeness, so please don't be offended. Lan Maqian seemed to want to say something, but Donghua raised a hand to stop her.
Mei Gongzi smiled faintly.
You're too kind, City Lord Jin. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to get my items. I hope you enjoy the rest of the auction. I hope so too. Please enjoy your day. Donghua nodded politely to her, then led Lan Maqian and the powerhouses of Sky-Splitting City out. On the way, they noticed Tang San and the Blue Gold Tree elders he was leading. As they passed by, Lan Maqian suddenly gave Tang San a thumbs up and said, Well done. Some people think having money lets them do as they please. Just let her spend more of it, that'll teach her to stop flaunting her pockets. Just as Mei Gongzi was about to complete the transaction, she instinctively turned around and saw the Blue Gold Tree Clan's team. When her eyes landed on Tang San, he felt an instant chill run through his whole body. I'm so absolutely fucked. Tang San thought to himself. She's definitely misunderstood. But there was no way he could explain himself right now. What worried him most was that after the martial tournament, Mei Gongzi would definitely learn that he was actually Jean Mirolin. Would she beat him up for trying to play the White Knight? For this transaction, Mei Gongzi was acquiring only one item, the Shadow Fiend's sword. After paying a full 5,100 amethystine coins, she saw the sword on the table before her. With the divine weapon so close, Mei Gongzi's senses grew sharper. As she took the Shadow Fiend's sword from its protective cover, she instantly felt the seed of the Azura sword in her sea of consciousness start to hum, sending ripples of energy through her entire being. The Shadow Fiend's sword vibrated lightly in her hand, letting out a low hum as faint ripples of light spread out along the blade. Although she didn't fully understand what was happening, Mei Gongzi quickly mobilized her bloodline power to stabilize the energy fluctuations. Just as she was about to store the Shadow Fiend's sword, a phantom-like figure appeared without warning. A sharp spike, which left behind a faint afterimage, shot straight at her chest. Even with Tang San's powerful divine consciousness, he had no inkling of the attack until it was almost upon them. He hadn't even been able to sense the attacker's presence. In that instant, Mei Gongzi felt her hair stand on end, and a terrifying sense of danger flooded her. But in that moment, she revealed the fruits of her recent seclusion. Silver light burst from her in a blinding flash, with no hesitation or reservation. In an instant, countless silver stars appeared around her. It was as if a galaxy had appeared out of nowhere and was swirling around her. As the spike neared her, the starlight shifted, deflecting the deadly blow to the side. Courting death. Mei Gongxi's voice rang cold and clear, and a terrifying killing intent erupted from her as she unleashed the god-killing domain. At the same time, she thrust the Shadow Fiend's sword at her attacker. As the killing intent exploded outward, Mei Gongxi felt the Azura sword seed vanish from her sea of consciousness. At the very same instant, the Shadow Fiend's sword in her hand blazed with a crimson radiance. An overwhelming and terrifying sword intent burst forth. With a crisp metallic sound, the spike was instantly reduced to powder by the Shadow Fiend's sword. The terrifying killing intent even tore the surrounding space apart, preventing the two mothers who wanted to help Mei Gongxi from intervening.
Impossible.
A raspy, incredulous voice echoed as the phantasmal figure dissolved into a cloud of dust. Clearly it was fleeing. Mei Gongxi wanted to pursue, but her body did not let her. Her sea of consciousness was clearly unstable, and the Shadow Fiend's sword in her hand felt as heavy as a mountain, making her movements clumsy and awkward. She staggered, then took a hard step forward to stabilize herself. She took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing the violent fluctuations of her bloodline power. But the killing intent around her had become almost tangible. The god-killing domain, which was normally accompanied by white light, was now blood-red. That thick aura of bloodlust made even the Blue Gold Tree clan members behind Tang San shiver in fear. The god-killing domain evolved. The Azura-held domain. Tang San was also stunned as he watched Mei Gongxi. When the sudden attack occurred, he had reacted almost at the same time she did. At that moment, nothing was more important to him than Mei Gongxi's safety. Even if it meant exposing his own identity, he had been prepared to teleport there in an instant to save her. Yet in that same instant, he saw the starlight blooming around Mei Gongxi, and he instantly judged that there was no need to act. So, although there was a flicker of silver light under Tang San's feet, he didn't actually teleport over. He simply shifted slightly in place. Meanwhile, Mei Gongxi's battle had already ended, and in that brief instant, her god-killing domain had astonishingly evolved. This evolution was certainly related to the White Tiger Demon Emperor's guidance, but that was not the key factor. The true trigger was the Azura sword seed of sword intent that lived within Mei Gongxi. The Azura sword's power had been fully unleashed. In fact, Tang San even felt as though the true Azura sword had descended. It was the aura of a transcendent divine artifact. It seemed that this Shadow Fiend sword was somehow resonating with the Azura sword intent, letting it temporarily manifest some of its true power. What a miraculous artifact! But how is this possible? Even with all his experience, Tang San didn't dare to draw conclusions. He'd have to wait until after the auction ended to personally handle the Shadow Fiend sword and see what it truly was. After that brief moment of shock, Mei Gongxi immediately steadied herself. The Shadow Fiend sword in her hand had changed rather drastically and was now a crystalline red. It radiated a terrifying killing aura, and at the same time, it exuded an air of proud defiance. For an instant, Mei Gongxi's mind wavered. She seemed to see a comet-like red streak shooting toward her from some distant place. The sensation in her divine consciousness was both familiar and comforting, and at the same time, fragments of some long-buried memories seemed to stir in her mind. By now, powerful auras had converged around the transaction area. These were the top experts of the Grand Auction Hall. But they had all arrived too late. The assassin hadn't left behind even a trace. After briefly sensing the strange resonance from the Shadow Fiend's sword, Mei Gongxi quickly put it away. In the next moment, the Azura sword seed of sword intent instantly drew it into her sea of consciousness. Inside this sea of consciousness, the sword light hovering at the center was now more than 3 times as strong as before, and it appeared almost fully solid. Mei Gongxi could feel her divine consciousness being tempered by that sword intent, and her sea of consciousness rapidly expanding. It was worth it. Never mind 5,000 amethystine coins. Even 50,000 would have been a small amount. The evolution of the god-killing domain alone was beyond any monetary value. With this Shadow Fiend sword, Mei Gongzi was certain her power would rise immensely. Tang San and the elders of the Blue Gold Tree clan were also stopped by the auction's enforcers. With an assassination attempt just now, everyone present was a suspect. Mei Gongzi explained that she hadn't suffered any losses and was allowed to return to her private room. To Tang San's dismay, however, he was told that all transactions were temporarily suspended. For the following transactions, an emperor would personally oversee the proceedings, in order to ensure that the auction's integrity wasn't compromised by small-time thieves. With that, Tang San and the Blue Gold Tree clan elders ended up walking back with Mei Gongzi's group. 1. The original term here refers to the palace where the 10 Yama kings, the kings of hell, reside. It also includes one character from the name Azura. Since it was rather difficult to link this to the kings of hell, we decided to go with this translation. City Lord Mei, are you alright? Tang San asked with concern. Mei Gongzi shot him a glance and said, I'm fine. Was that an eye roll? As if to serve as confirmation, she then completely ignored him and quickened her pace to leave. Tang San rubbed his nose, feeling like he'd run into a wall. Still, he could sense that Mei Gongzi was in an excellent mood. Clearly, the Shadow Fiend's sword had given her quite a surprise. Too dangerous, big brother. Really way too dangerous. Back in VIP room 8, Jean Miaosen was even trembling a bit. Let's wait a little longer before we settle things with our own items. Better to do it once the emperors are around to watch over things. We're in no hurry, Tang San reassured her. I'm not talking about the handover. I'm talking about that city Lord Mei. She's too strong. When she activated her domain just now, I felt like I couldn't even move. And you're still thinking of making her my sister-in-law? Big brother, you must have a death wish. I bet you wouldn't even survive one strike from her. Tang San's mouth twitched. What a great little sister I have. Well, it's good that you're worried about me, I suppose. But it wasn't just Jean Miaosen who felt this way. The 3 great nymph king elders who'd gone with Tang San to the item counter also had lingering fear in their eyes. They all nodded repeatedly, obviously shaken by the upgraded version of Mei Gongzi's god-killing domain they just witnessed. At that moment they felt like their very life force had been frozen, and their bodies had been completely out of their control. If Mei Gongzi had chosen to attack them then, they probably wouldn't have even had a chance to dodge. Though they'd always encouraged Tang San to participate in this competition for the emperor's seat, only after personally experiencing Mei Gongzi's outburst of power did they realize just how fierce the competition would be. If even the Peacock Demon clan, which had no emperor alive, had such a terrifying representative, then how strong would the other powerful clan's champions be? Big brother, maybe we shouldn't join the competition at all? Things have finally gotten a little better for us since you arrived. Please don't go and get yourself killed. Jean Miaosen blurted out without thinking. Even Tang San, with his typically good temperament, couldn't help but reach out and knock her on the head. Wish me well, would you? I know what I'm doing. If I can't win, I'll just surrender. Besides, don't forget we have the substitute lotus seeds, remember? Oh, right. The substitute lotus seeds. Jean Miaosen let out a small sigh of relief. Tang San could only shake his head helplessly. No wonder the Blue Gold Tree clan was always bullied. They really had no fighting spirit at all. Even though they'd gained powerful abilities like life-bestowing and life-reaping through the ancestral tree's imprint, they had no real desire to fight. That was the core of the problem. Changing this mindset wouldn't be something that could be accomplished in a day or in a year. Tang San hoped that maybe his own performance in the martial tournament for the emperor's seat could bring some much-needed fighting spirit to the Blue Gold Tree clan. At the very least, he hoped to shatter their cowardly attitude. If nothing else, it would make the fact that he'd been using them as a cover and personal wallet feel less exploitative. The auction moved on to its second day. On the first day, the most expensive item had been the Shadow Fiend sword Mei Gongzi had bought for a shocking 5,100 amethystine coins. The second day would surely bring other rare treasures, especially at the start and the end times when the best items were always showcased. So as the auction resumed, everyone was refreshed and eagerly waiting. On stage, a figure descended from the sky. It was someone new, with whom Tang San was actually quite familiar. None other than the Soul Capturer Nymph Emperor. Compared to the 2 emperors from the Empyrean Dominion who'd hosted yesterday, the Soul Capturer Nymph Emperor seemed much more genial. He drifted down with a warm smile, even giving off an air of scholarly elegance. The soul capturer nymph emperor said, "After yesterday's long auction, I'm sure everyone's feeling a bit fatigued. So today, on the second day, let's start with something to wake everyone up. Bring out our first item." As he stepped onto the stage, Tang San could clearly feel several powerful divine consciousnesses descend from the VIP suites where the emperors resided. Though they were too subtle for most to even feel at all, Tang San's own divine consciousness was refined enough to detect them. Their senses swept over the entire auction hall, obviously searching for something. Tang San knew exactly what they were looking for. The one who had attacked Mei Gongzi earlier, to dare to strike at a great demon king, and one who was a city lord at that, in the middle of the ancestral court. Someone with that kind of strength and the ability to slip away even under Mei Gongzi's terrifying spatial sealing power had to be truly formidable. Tracking them down wouldn't be easy. On his part, Tang San didn't even need to think to know who it was. Although that figure had struck first at Mei Gongzi, they hadn't had any real killing intent. Their true target was clearly the Shadow Fiend's sword. To risk so much for that sword. Their identity was all but obvious. While there was no proof, practically everyone knew who the wannabe thief was. Tang San also figured that this incident would likely elevate Mei Gongzi's standing in everyone's eyes. After all, her attacker was known as the best thief, and perhaps also the best assassin on the demon continent. Yet it hadn't been able to take advantage of Mei Gongzi's inexperience. In fact, it had almost been cut down by her immediate counterattack. That level of power was bound to make the other competitors in the martial tournament weigh their chances very carefully. Mei Gongzi's last public victory had been winning the Ancestral Court Elite competition as a ninth-order fighter. Then, unbeknownst to the general public, she'd overpowered an immortal Flame Phoenix Great Demon King during her City Lord evaluation. Since then, there had been no new record of her strength. This brief yet overwhelming display had surely caught everyone's attention. Compared to Mei Gongzi, Jean Miaolin barely registered to the true powerhouses. Sure, the blue gold trees had slain an emperor, but that had been the ancestral tree's power, not Jean Miaolin's. Could he even bring that power to the ancestral court to compete for an emperor position? Unlikely. And even if he could, the emperors of the ancestral court certainly wouldn't allow that sort of external interference. Otherwise, what would stop them from sharing their power with their own descendants? On stage, the first item of the day slowly emerged, drawing everyone's gaze. Everyone knew that the first item of the second day was guaranteed to be something exceptional. But when this item finally appeared, it still made all the bidders gasp in awe. It was an orb of light, pure snow-white light. As it appeared, everyone who saw it felt their entire bodies' pores open wide and draw in energy, as if their very life force was being uplifted under its glow. A faint golden mist hovered and swirled up to 100 meters above the orb of light, and the sight made viewers' hearts sing with delight. Only those with divine consciousness at the 11th order or equivalent could perceive the tiny jade vial at the very center of that light. Whatever was inside it, that single vial was the source of all this radiance. The soul capturer nymph emperor only said one short sentence. "This is a drop of blood essence from the celestial fox demon emperor." The hall instantly erupted into an uproar. That was the entire introduction. Those who knew didn't need to be told. Those who didn't know were completely unqualified to bid for it. The celestial fox demon emperor was the master of destiny, the one who controlled fortune across the entire demon continent. What was a drop of his blood essence? It was the blessing of fortune itself. With that drop in hand, one would practically become the chosen child of destiny in the upcoming competition. The temptation was simply too immense, too overpowering. Luck is a part of one's strength. This saying couldn't be more fitting when applied to the Celestial Fox clan. On the demon continent, fortune was quite literally a power to be wielded by those capable. And the Celestial Fox demon emperor, by virtue of his mastery over fortune, stood as the world's foremost decision-maker. In a sense, he was the true leader of the Ancestral Court's council. And now, at this mega-auction, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was astonishingly offering a drop of his own blood essence. Its value was beyond measure. It was an absolute treasure. Many contenders for an emperor position, upon seeing this drop of blood, found their breathing become ragged. If one could obtain it, then even putting aside their own strength, their chances of succeeding in anything really increased significantly. The starting bid is 500 amethystin coins. Each increment must be no less than 100 amethystin coins. Let the bidding begin. The starting bid was quite fair. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's drop of blood essence was not an artifact but a consumable, so a starting bid of 500 was very reasonable. As for the high increments, the problem was that this blood essence was rarer than any divine item. Divine items could be found here and there if one was willing to pay enough, but where would one find another drop of blood from the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor? Not only was it a drop of blood essence from an emperor, which was rare enough to begin with, but it came with fortune that could benefit absolutely anyone. So, its rarity was beyond question, and it was especially crucial for the upcoming battle for the throne. Its final price would have nothing to do with the auction house's initial price. It would only be determined upon fierce competition. 1,000 amethystin coins from VIP Room 6. 1,100 amethystin coins from VIP Room 3. 1,200 from VIP Room 10. One bid after another flew out rapidly. One could hardly keep up with them all. Most of the major VIP rooms were involved. Occasionally, there were bids from outside the VIP rooms, but these were quickly drowned out by higher offers. 2,100 amethystin coins from VIP Room 6. The price swiftly surpassed 2,000. It was already equivalent to the price of a high-grade divine item. Was it worth it? To all the strong bidders present, it was definitely worth it. Suddenly, a shocking bid shattered the ongoing frenzy. 5,000 amethystin coins from VIP Room 8. The entire venue fell silent instantly, and all eyes turned to VIP Room 8. Previously, when Mei Gongzi had bid for the Shadow Fiend sword, it was VIP Room 8 that had pushed the price to 5,000 amethystin coins, and Mei Gongzi had been forced to take it for 5,100. Now once again a bid of 5,000. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's blood essence was undoubtedly precious, but 5,000 was truly an astronomical figure. That was the price of two excellent divine items. But no one doubted the wealth of the occupant of VIP Room 8. After all, yesterday he'd sold 5 blue gold fruits for 25,000 amethystin coins. He could afford to be extravagant. Of course, whether he was genuinely bidding or he was just a fake bidder placed there by the very grand auction hall remained to be seen. But at this moment, all the strong bidders in the VIP rooms couldn't help but feel a deep, gnawing resentment. 5,000. Should they follow up or not? If they did and the opponent gave up, it meant they would have paid a sky-high price for just a single drop of blood essence. After all, back when the Rainbow Deer Demon Emperor's blood essence was auctioned, it sold for far less. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's blood essence was certainly more precious, but was it 10 times more precious? The entire venue went silent. Then a wave of murmured discussions began. Only after a good minute of chattering did the Soul Capturer Nymph Emperor address the public again. VIP Room 8 bids 5,000 amethystin coins. Any higher offers? He clearly enjoyed this kind of high-stakes auction. The Ancestral Court's Grand Auction Hall was the property of the council, and each year's profits were shared among the emperors. That was why the emperors had brought out such fine treasures for the super auction. They were hoping to make a fortune. But even he found it excessive to see 5,000 amethystin coins spent on a drop of blood essence. He almost felt like taking some of his own blood right there on stage. Even if it fetched only half the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's price, it would still be a fortune. After all, his blood essence was highly beneficial for the enhancement of one's divine consciousness. Any further bids? The Soul Capturer Nymph Emperor called out again. There was no response. No one was willing to continue. 5,000 was simply too steep, twice the previous bids. Having seen Mei Gongzi's example yesterday, everyone instinctively believed that whoever bid even one extra coin would be a fool. VIP Room 8 would surely withdraw. No one wanted to be that fool, and the price was thus fixed at 5,000. There was also the fact that if this fortune-imbued blood had fallen into the hands of the Dragon Race, Phoenix Race or Behemoth Clan, there would have been a fierce struggle. But since it was in the hands of the Blue Gold Tree Clan, a clan with little competitive power, it didn't seem to matter. Even if the Blue Gold Tree Clan was favored by luck, what could they possibly do? Let them have it. It wouldn't stir up any waves. In other words, this drop of blood essence falling into Tang San's hands was something all the powerful figures present could accept. So in the end, the price was decided at 5,000 amethystine coins. 5,000 amethystine coins sold. Congratulations to VIP Room 8. The gavel fell. Tang San had successfully won the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's blood essence. Was it worth it? Perhaps not for others. But for Tang San it was absolutely worth it. He would have even paid double or triple if needed. When he saw this item appear, he almost laughed out loud. It was as if a pillow had been conveniently delivered to someone who was dozing off. Long ago, Tang San had already been considering how he would continue to enhance his discerning eye of heaven after becoming an emperor. With the Rainbow Deer Demon Emperor's blood essence, it had evolved into a transcendent bloodline. But to push it even further in the future, pinnacle-level bloodline power of the Celestial Fox clan would be indispensable. Yet he dared not approach the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor directly. It would be too easy to be discovered. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's sensitivity to fortune would expose him instantly. But now the problem was solved. This single drop of the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's blood essence was, for Tang San, even more valuable than the lucky lotus seed he'd gotten as a gift. The latter was simply fortune condensed, but lacked bloodline power. Meanwhile, with this drop of blood, he could one day evolve his Celestial Fox vision to the level of a nine-tailed Celestial Fox, and the discerning eye of heaven would subsequently evolve as well. So it didn't matter if it cost 5 or 50,000, Tang San would have bought it no matter what. What a complete success. He naturally understood why no one had bid against him again. Sometimes having a weaker background wasn't such a bad thing. On stage, the Soul Capturer Nymph Emperor was in excellent spirits. The very first item of the day had fetched a staggering 5,000 amethystine coins, almost matching the 5,100 record of yesterday. And there were still so many treasures yet to come. For the Blue Gold Tree Clan elders, there were no objections at all to Tang San paying such a high price. Tang San had already earned them so much money the day before, leaving them ecstatic. Their original intention was to let Tang San arm himself as best as possible, hoping he might make a splash in the throne war. Enhancing one's luck was part of strengthening oneself, and winning it was certainly worthwhile, even if it meant overpaying. Present the second item, the Soul Capturer Nymph Emperor said, putting away the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's blood essence. The pure white mist in the air dissipated, and the next auction item rose from the platform to be revealed to all the bidders. It was a spear that seemed to be made entirely of radiant gold, emanating an intense aura of light. Both ends had sharp tips, and the long shaft glowed with streams of golden light, giving off a dazzling brilliance. The streams of light seemed to coalesce into the shape of a coiling dragon, an extremely wondrous sight. Seeing this spear, Tang San couldn't help but be astonished. It looked exactly like a weapon his daughter and son had used in his previous life. On the stage, the Soul Capturer Nymph Emperor began to speak. As all of you can see, this is not only a divine item, but an exceptional one. It was forged from the single horn of a radiant dragon king, imbued with vast amounts of light energy and dragon power. It grants tremendous enhancements to all light attribute beings, and also greatly augments the wielder's strength. It comes with the formidable ability Sanctuary of Radiance, which increases defensive, offensive, and healing capabilities, and is extremely potent against darkness. Additionally, every thrust and every block will be imbued with powerful light energy. It is a truly rare and powerful artifact. Of course, it originally belonged to the dragon race, but it changed hands after a fierce battle in which an emperor acquired it. After that emperor's fall, it was left in the ancestral court. Following deliberation by the ancestral court's council, it was decided to put this radiant dragon spear up for auction. The starting bid is 3,000 amethystine coins, and the minimum increment is 100. You may bid now. The opening price alone was enough to demonstrate the value of this piece. Undoubtedly, it was the best item in the auction so far. This artifact was not something entirely unknown. Some of those present knew one thing that the Soul Capturer Nymph Emperor had failed to mention, that the Radiant Dragon King whose horn had been turned into the spear was not just a random 10th Order Demon King, but actually the leader of the Radiant Dragon clan, and a Radiant Dragon Demon Emperor. Looking at the artifact, Tang San couldn't help but think back to the weapon both his daughter and son had used in his past life. That spear, the double-tipped golden dragon spear, was made of the golden dragon king's rib, and it had been used and nurtured by his children, growing alongside them. This radiant dragon spear before him was clearly not on par with the golden dragon spear, since the golden dragon king had been a god king, but it wasn't far off either. The golden dragon spear focused mainly on brute strength, while the radiant dragon spear combined physical power with control over light. It was truly a rare treasure even in Tang San's eyes, an exceptional item even compared to the amazing artifacts of his old divine realm. The throne of frost that had appeared earlier was certainly nothing to scoff at, but compared to this spear, it fell far short. The first bid was placed before the echo of the auctioneer's voice dissipated into the auction hall. 3,000 amethystine coins from VIP room 10. Those dragons again. Of course it makes sense. The very fact that this artifact is up for auction likely has something to do with Suan Yu. Otherwise, such a treasure would stay sealed in the ancestral court for who knows how long. Even so, it wouldn't be easy for Suan Yu to win. For 1,000 amethystine coins, VIP room 3. The Phoenix race had made a move, raising the bid by a full 1,000 at once. Inside VIP room 10, Suan Yu's expression was grim, but his eyes shone with excitement. Of all the pieces in this auction, this spear was the one he absolutely had to acquire. It had been crafted from the horn of his ancestor, who had been defeated by another emperor and whose horn was taken to create this spear. This shame had weighed on the Radiant Dragon clan for millennia. Only after the victorious emperor fell to the ravages of time was the Radiant Dragon clan able to rise again. For the Radiant Dragon clan, this spear was both a memento of bitter humiliation and a source of unmatched power. If he could reclaim it, his strength would soar to new heights. Suan Yu had gone to great lengths, stirring heated debates within the ancestral court, to ensure it would appear at this auction. Now, reclaiming it would require wealth and determination in equal measure. If the emperor who'd created the spear had descendants, he would have never had a chance. Their descendants would have long since claimed it for themselves. Now that it was finally in the open, Suan Yu was determined to win it, whatever the cost. Without skipping a beat, he raised the bid in another huge leap. 5,000 amethystine coins. At this price, most bidders no longer dared to compete. 5,000 amethystine coins was a staggering sum, even though it was in fact a fair price for this spear. 6,000 amethystine coins, VIP room 3. Yet another bid, yet another record price. Suan Yu's face remained stoic as he prepared to enter a new bid, but before he could, the attendant's voice rang out again. 10,000 amethystine coins from VIP room 8. The entire venue erupted. This time there was none of the stunned silence seen previously. Everyone was in an uproar, and everyone was thinking more or less the same things. Are these trees missing a couple of roots? Do they seriously have so much money and nothing better to do with it than to become enemies with the dragon race? The celestial fox demon emperor's blood essence had topped out at 5,000 amethystine coins, but the radiant dragon spear had just hit double that in one fell swoop. Regardless of the final price, this had instantly become the most expensive single lot in this auction. 10,000 amethystine coins, an astronomical figure. Many major cities would be hard-pressed to generate that kind of revenue in a year. Suan Yu's face turned ashen in an instant. Beside him, Tang Mahuang shot to his feet, eyes blazing. That little brat from the Blue Gold Tree clan is doing this on purpose. I'll burn him alive. He made to leave immediately. And it wasn't just him. Sun Honghao, the Ice Dragon King, also looked thunderous. Earlier, that asshole Jean Miarolin had snatched the throne of frost from him. The Ice Dragon clan wasn't particularly wealthy, but they were willing to pay a bit extra just to acquire it. Yet when they tried to negotiate a trade, Jean Miarolin refused outright. And now, the Blue Gold Tree clan had stepped in again, on an item that had nothing to do with them, bidding the astronomical sum of 10,000. It was outrageous. Suan Yu hadn't inherited Crystal City's treasury just yet, and while the Radiant Dragon clan was wealthy, it was practically impossible for them to muster such an amount on short notice. Even so, he put his hand on Tang Mahuang's shoulder, signaling him to sit back down. Now was not the time to lose one's calm. The soul capturer nymph emperor was inwardly taken aback as well. He truly suspected that Tang San had been planted there by the Grand Auction Hall, or maybe by one of the emperors to stir things up. Why else would he keep making these shocking bids? 10,000. No matter how good this spear was, did the Blue Gold Tree clan even need it? 10,000 amethystine coins. Any further bids? The Soul Capturer Nymph Emperor asked. At that number, the entire hall fell silent. The Phoenix race too dropped out of the bidding. The amount was simply too high. 10,100 amethystine coins, VIP room 10. Suan Yu had finally clenched his teeth and raised the bid once more. This spear was simply too important. No matter how much the Blue Gold Tree clan was pushing up the price, he had no choice but to endure. But just as Suan Yu thought he had finally secured it, another bid came. 11,000 amethystine coins, VIP room 8. Tang San sat in his comfortable chair, smiling faintly. Do you dare to keep going, little brother? Big brother. Is this thing really useful? Jean Miaosen couldn't help but ask. 11,000 amethystine coins. Sure, they'd earned a lot yesterday, but this spending was still intense. Tang San smiled slightly. Tell me, what do trees need to grow? Sunlight and water, right? For us, radiance is the best nourishment. Besides, the Radiant Dragon Spear can actually enhance my strength. I got to learn some spear techniques while traveling, and I'm not doing too badly. And for this upcoming tournament, I lack a weapon. I think this spear suits me well. As long as you like it, that's fine. Jean Miaosen grinned. After all, her brother had already earned more than that. Seeing a few blue gold fruits sell for tens of thousands of amethystine coins had completely convinced her. Outsiders didn't know how the blue gold fruits were produced, but she was well aware. Gritting his teeth, Suan Yu raised his bid once again. 11,100 amethystine coins, VIP room 10. Calmly, Tang San keyed in yet another number. 12,000 VIP room 8. At that moment, Crystalline's voice echoed inside him. Daddy, you're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Just because he flirted with Mei Gongzi. I sure am. Why, feeling sorry for your disciple? Tang San chuckled. To be honest, I didn't expect you to be so petty. This Radiant Dragon Spear is very important to the Radiant Dragon clan. If you really buy it, there might be a lot of trouble. Crystalline couldn't help but comment. Tang San smiled. No, there won't be. I have you. The dragon race won't dare make trouble for me. Also, I'm not this petty normally, but when it comes to little Mei, I don't care about anything or anyone else. Whoever tries anything will suffer the consequences. Indeed, as grand and magnanimous as he was in other matters, Tang San could not be any pettier when it came to matters of the heart. In VIP room 10, Suan Yu once more grabbed the fuming Tang Ma Huang, who was so furious he was practically breathing fire, and dragged him back to his seat. If he lost his head now or let his acolytes run wild in front of so many emperors, how could he ever become Lord of Crystal City in the future? 12,000 amethystine coins. It was way beyond his budget. Keep bidding, brother, and you. I can lend you some of my money, Sun Honghao suddenly offered. Suan Yu was momentarily stunned. When Sun Honghao had bid for the Throne of Frost, he hadn't offered any help. Yet now he was offering support out of the blue. Taking a deep breath, Suan Yu shook his head with a bitter smile. I can't be that selfish. This money isn't mine. It belongs to the Radiant Dragon clan. Even though we want this weapon desperately, if the price goes any higher, it won't be worth it. Forget it. I'm giving up. Deep down, he wanted to keep bidding. He felt that Sun Honghao's few thousand coins would have given him a chance. But spending such an outrageous sum on a single item would put too much strain on the Radiant Dragon clan. Worse, if he still failed to win the battle for the throne despite having that spear in his hand, he might never have a chance at becoming an emperor again. The pressure he would be subject to within the dragon race would be enormous. In the end, rationality triumphed over emotion. He gave up, reluctantly but decisively. 12,000 amethystine coins. Any more bids? The Soul Capturer Nymph Emperor called, his heart full of astonishment. He knew that he'd been wrong earlier. This was not price hiking, this was truly about wanting the artifact. Jean Miaolen of the Blue Gold Tree clan was fearless. While many believe that the fall of the Adamant Nymph Emperor happened entirely at the hands of the ancestral tree, the Soul Capturer Nymph Emperor begged to differ. Before the battle with the Adamant Nymph Emperor, Jean Miaolin had appeared utterly calm. During the clash, the projection of the ancestral tree had indeed supplied Jean Miaolin with vast life energy. But the soul capturer nymph emperor, who knew the adamant nymph emperor's might intimately, felt that even that surge of life energy wouldn't have been enough to kill it under normal circumstances. Yet the outcome was undeniable. The adamant nymph emperor had fallen. In other words, notwithstanding the ancestral tree's power, was Jean Miaolin himself really as weak as people thought he was? The soul capturer nymph emperor's eyes narrowed as he suddenly realized something. Perhaps this young blue gold tree clan leader truly intended to compete in the battle for the throne, aiming to secure a spot. Judging by their recent sale of blue gold fruits, the blue gold tree clan was certainly not lacking in resources. 12,000 amethystine coins once. 12,000 amethystine coins twice. 12,000 amethystine coins. Sold. Congratulations to VIP Room 8. After 3 calls, the Radiant Dragon Spear was officially sold to VIP Room 8 at the staggering price of 12,000 amethystine coins. This was already the third record-priced item won by the same buyer, sending the entire auction hall into an uproar. Though the Blue Gold Tree Clan had participated in the first day's auction, it was nothing compared to today. Yesterday's purchases of the Throne of Frost and Substitute Lotus Seed together hadn't cost as much as this single artifact. They'd spent close to 19,000 amethystine coins in total, 3/4 of the money earned from selling the blue gold fruits. Present the third lot. The soul capturer nymph emperor's emotions were mixed, while the atmosphere in VIP Room 10 was far from good. Suan Yu sat there with a dark expression. As the final call fell, it felt like a huge blow, as if the auctioneer's gavel had crushed something inside him. He'd gone to so much trouble to bring the Radiant Dragon Spear to auction, only for it to be snatched away. It was a colossal humiliation. Brother, maybe we should. Tang Mahuang leaned closer, his eyes full of murderous intent. Suan Yu glanced at him coldly. This is the ancestral court, and he's a city lord. Do you realize how many emperors are backing him? Don't say such brainless things again. Tang Mahuang protested. So we just let him walk away with it? Let him strut around like that? Does the Blue Gold Tree Clan really have that much money? Didn't they say selling the blue gold fruits meant they'd have nothing left for a century? And he just spent it all in one go. Sun Honghao sneered. You actually believe everything they say? The blue gold fruits are valuable, no doubt, but do you think they just sold all of them? I don't buy it. And even if they did, what makes you think they haven't sold some more before this auction? No. The Blue Gold Tree Clan must be up to something big. And Suan Yu's right. No one can provoke them without an emperor's support. Suan Yu took a deep breath, and his face regained its calm expression. Let's wait and see. The auction isn't over yet. Not getting the Radiant Dragon Spear doesn't necessarily mean I'm out of the running. Meanwhile, in VIP Room 8, Jean Miaolin was elated. Although she'd been rather wary about Tang San bidding on the spear, now that it was won, taken from under the dragon race's noses no less, it felt like an enormous triumph. When had the Blue Gold Tree Clan ever been this dazzling? The other elders had no objections at all. From the start, they planned to give their all to support Tang San. With his successful appointment as Lord of Skytree City, the foundation was already secure. Over these days, how could they not see that only in Tang San's hands could the Blue Gold Tree Clan truly revive? The auction continued. The third piece was still an excellent item, though not as spectacular as the first two, a suit of armor that could adjust to any body size, offering superb defense. But Tang San had no interest in it, leaving it to others to compete. The auction rolled on, rare treasures appearing one after another. Perhaps driven by Tang San's massive bids, the second day's prices were even more inflated than the first, and the auction hall was truly ablaze with excitement. In VIP Room 8, Tang San and his companions made no further bids, almost as if they'd simply come to liven up the atmosphere before sitting back and relaxing. The dragon race in VIP Room 10 also fell completely silent, showing no interest in the subsequent items on offer. Even so, there was no shortage of items to interest the various VIPs. Different beings had different needs, after all, and not a single piece went unsold. By afternoon, when items better suited to human development, such as those that could improve energy purity, came up, Tang San would place bids and win them. These would help him continue to build up the elemental seas in the human world later. However, the vast majority of lots in this auction were still weapons, armor, and heavenly materials directly used to strengthen the body. The things he needed weren't as numerous. Nevertheless, as the day's auction concluded and everyone moved to rest, it was clear. The highest total bid of the second day came from Tang San's VIP Room 8. The wealth of the Blue Gold Tree clan once again entered the spotlight of every powerhouse present. "Come, let's go get the items we won these 2 days," Tang San said as he rose and walked out. The elders quickly followed. The Grand Elder whispered, "But what about the dragons? Will they?" Tang San waved him off. "Don't worry about that. In front of so many emperors, and within the ancestral court no less, no matter how displeased the dragon race was, they wouldn't dare act rashly. Even if Suan Yu had already become Lord of Crystal City, which he hadn't, both sides would have been equal here in the ancestral court. With things as they stood, Tang San was actually at a slight advantage status-wise. As they exited the VIP room, the noise outside was already deafening. Compared to the first day, the bidders were clearly more fatigued. Although participating in such a grand auction was a rare and invaluable opportunity, 2 days cooped up in these crowded conditions was no picnic. In the few hours of free movement and rest, everyone took the chance to stretch their legs. Tang San didn't rush off right away. Other VIP rooms were also opening, and strong cultivators from various clans stepped out. Jean Miaosen kept sneaking glances at VIP room 10. When the dragon race members emerged, faces dark as storm clouds, she immediately stuck out her tongue and scurried to the other side of Tang San. Tang San, however, remained as calm and smiling as ever, even nodding politely at Suan Yu's group. Suan Yu returned the nod as if nothing had ever happened. The next moment, the air beside Tang San suddenly distorted, rippling like water. The surrounding people noticed at once and were instinctively on high alert. A moment later, a figure appeared beside Tang San. It was a white-robed person of normal human stature, but whose face no one present could see clearly in spite of nearly everyone being at the 11th order. Though they couldn't see his face, they could all sense his terrifying aura. A serene exterior, but within, it was as if a blazing sun had descended. Tang San bowed slightly in respect. "Greetings, Your Majesty." "Let's go," said the newcomer, none other than the Sunborn Nymph Emperor. The instant his aura radiated out, every person present bowed respectfully. Tang San walked at the Sunborn Nymph Emperor's side as they headed out together. This sight left the dragon group stunned. Tang Mahuang even muttered, "No wonder he's so arrogant. So the Blue Gold Tree clan can walk freely under the sun because they've become the Big Sun's underlings." "Silence," Suan Yu snapped. An emperor's senses were beyond comprehension. No matter how low his voice, did this hot-headed idiot think the topmost nymph emperor wouldn't hear? Realizing his mistake, Tang Mahuang hastily bowed his head again, showing the deepest respect. "Sorry to trouble you, Your Majesty. I was a bit shaken earlier when I saw Mei Gongzi get ambushed," Tang San said with an innocent smile. "All right, cut the pleasantries and hand it over," the Sunborn Nymph Emperor said gruffly, extending his hand. Tang San promptly handed over 2 great nymph king-grade blue gold fruits. The moment they touched the Sunborn Nymph Emperor's palm, they vanished. In exchange, Tang San now held a jade bottle with a substitute lotus seed inside. This was what they had agreed on beforehand. When the day's auction ended, Tang San had reached out to the Sunborn Nymph Emperor through his divine consciousness, asking for his protection when he went to collect his winnings. He was worried that there might be an ambush. He hadn't expected the Sunborn Nymph Emperor to personally show up. But here he was, escorting them to the auction's transaction desk. His presence instantly quieted any who might have had designs on the Blue Gold Tree clan. "You're quite the big spender. Buying that radiant dragon spear just so you shut down the ambitions of the dragon race?" the Sunborn Nymph Emperor asked. Tang San smiled. "Since I'm in the tournament, I have to compete, right? Wouldn't it shame the Solstice Empire if I didn't? If Suan Yu got that radiant dragon spear, his strength would have grown tremendously. Best to avoid that." The Sunborn Nymph Emperor glanced at him. "You've got more guts than I thought. That's good." If Tang San hadn't taken that radiant dragon spear at a sky-high price, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor wouldn't have been here. That payment of 12,000 amethystine coins, probably twice the spear's true worth, had forced him to reassess Tang San. While the spear wouldn't give Tang San much of a direct boost, denying it to Suan Yu was a major blow. For the Solstice Empire's position in this battle for the throne, this was clearly a huge advantage. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor didn't expect Tang San to become an emperor himself this time around, nor did he plan to support him in that way just yet. But with Tang San taking both the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's blood essence and now the Radiant Dragon Spear, the blow to the Empyrean Dominion was undeniable, and that alone was a great service. "It's all thanks to your guidance," Tang San said sincerely. "I don't remember ever teaching you how to be such a spendthrift," the Sunborn Nymph Emperor muttered, but there was a mischievous smile on his face. Following the Sunborn Nymph Emperor to the auction exchange hall was an experience like no other. Wherever they went, everyone of every race bowed deeply. As for collecting his items, it was a breeze. No one would dare make trouble in front of an emperor to begin with, let alone someone like Sunborn. In fact, Tang San didn't even have to spend a single amethystine coin. He had already delivered the blue gold fruits. Not only did he get everything he had bid for, he even came out with extra amethystine coins. Over these 2 days, he hadn't even spent 20,000 in total. Counting Ning Chenen's 5,000, his haul was enormous. As soon as he took the Radiant Dragon Spear in hand, Tang San felt an extraordinarily pure and powerful light energy surge through the spear's shaft, mixed with a fierce, defiant energy. The light flared so strongly it almost forced his hand away, the coiling dragon patterns on the shaft sharpening as if poised to cut into his palm. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor watched him with a faint smile, as if waiting to see how he'd handle this challenge. Tang San's expression flickered in surprise, but in the next instant, his blue-skinned palm radiated pure golden light. The life energy that erupted from his hand surged into the Radiant Dragon Spear in an unending stream. At once, the spear shuddered slightly and let out a strange dragon roar that sounded almost satisfied. The spear's defiant aura swiftly subsided, the scorching light it radiated vanished, and then, it just lay docile in Tang San's hand. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor couldn't help but laugh. "So that's how it is. I was curious to see how you'd handle this weapon. It's not that no one in the ancestral court ever tried to use this spear. It's certainly a powerful artifact, but unless you're a radiant dragon, it's practically impossible to wield. I honestly didn't expect you to pull it off." Jean Miaosen, who was trailing behind Tang San, was suddenly struck by a realization. No wonder Suan Yu didn't seem all that worried just now. She then stuck out her tongue and fell silent again. She wouldn't dare to push her luck in front of the Sunborn Nymph Emperor. Tang San smiled at the Emperor. Life energy is the most fundamental force, the foundation of all energies. Every elemental attribute, even darkness, has life characteristics. Otherwise, it couldn't exist in the universe at all. Some elemental energies reject each other, but none of them ever truly rejects life energy. That's something the ancestral tree's legacy taught me. Life is the source of everything, and the key to controlling everything else. So no matter what kind of artifact ends up in my hands. He raised the Radiant Dragon Spear before him, looking at the flowing dragon-shaped patterns along the shaft, and said with a low chuckle, "I just need to spoil it a little. If it wants to keep being spoiled, it will naturally work for me." The Sunborn Nymph Emperor laughed once more. "Spoil it, huh? You're getting more interesting by the day. Good, good. I look forward to seeing how you'll spoil your opponents in the martial contest for that girl's hand." With a final chuckle, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor turned into a ray of light and soared into the sky, vanishing without a trace. As he watched him leave, Tang San let out a small sigh of relief. He had many ways to tame this artifact, but he had to choose one that wouldn't give away his secrets in front of an emperor. His theory of life as the source of all things was not entirely his own, and neither was it actually taught to him by the ancestral tree. Instead, it echoed the teachings of the Life Goddess, one of the god kings from the divine realm of his past life. Her theory of life energy as the root of all existence was widely respected there. While the ancestral tree was indeed the embodiment of life in this world, even with its original divine consciousness, it would have fallen short in true understanding compared to the Life Goddess. Tang San didn't rule over life himself, but from long exposure, he understood the highest forms of life energy far better than anyone in this world. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor could easily see Tang San's brilliant use of life energy, like a bribe to coax the radiant dragon spear into accepting him. But the precision and skill with which he manipulated that life energy, blending it perfectly with the spear, was something no other blue gold tree elder could ever replicate. Warm energy constantly flowed from the spear into Tang San's body, infusing it with light. The spear's radiant power didn't just coat his skin. It seeped into every cell, flooding him with a pure light essence. This was enough to prove it was a true divine artifact of the highest caliber. Bathed in its radiance, Tang San's body would be strengthened, and any trace of darkness in him thoroughly cleansed. Combined with his life energy, the effect was even stronger. Light and life harmonized perfectly, nourishing his body and spirit. It was a delightful, unexpected boon. Tang San spun the spear in his hand, then flicked it once and it dissolved into a stream of golden light, merging into his body. While he didn't have an innate light attribute, he had integrated the Rainbow Deer Demon Emperor's bloodline power into the evolved discerning eye of heaven, and that gave him some measure of mastery over light. Using this spear would be no problem at all. In fact, its aura reminded him of the golden dragon spear, and even his own sea god's trident that was still on the way. When Tang San and the Blue Gold Tree Clan elders returned to the VIP area, the surrounding VIPs all looked at him with newfound respect. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor's personal appearance had sent a clear message. Even though most main cities had emperors of their own, not one of those emperors had shown up. But the strongest Nymph Emperor, the one widely regarded as the most powerful in the demon continent, had personally come for Tang San. This meant that for now, the Blue Gold Tree Clan was under the Sunborn Nymph Emperor's direct protection. Who would dare oppose him? Even in the days when the Crystal Demon Emperor was alive, he had not been all that far from being her equal. Now that the Crystal Demon Emperor had fallen, there was still some dispute as to whether he or the Undying Demon Emperor was stronger, but the vast majority was inclined to believe Sunborn deserved the title of strongest. With his protection, the Blue Gold Tree Clan was beyond untouchable. Tang San hadn't expected the Sunborn Nymph Emperor to be so overt in his support. Clearly, it was thanks to the ancestral tree's legacy, and the future allure of the first blue gold fruit he'd promised. It was almost as if the Emperor had marked Tang San as his personal orchard. Still, that wasn't a bad thing. It meant Tang San now had a huge advantage in the upcoming matchmaking tournament. Having an emperor's backing was far better than when he'd competed alongside Mei Gongzi in the Ancestral Court Elite Tournament. Mei Gongzi now had the support of 3 demon emperors, while Tang San had Sunborn, and consequently Earthshade as well, on his side. As long as his own strength was up to par, the other emperors wouldn't be able to do much. Not lingering outside to chat or socialize, Tang San returned straight to his VIP room. He ate a simple dinner, then sat down to meditate in preparation for the evening's auction session. He knew that the auction's start and end would feature especially rare treasures. This was what made it a true mega-auction. The dozen divine artifacts that had already been presented, items of the highest level. And everyone knew the final 3 items on the last night would be the most precious of all. Right now, not even he could guess what final wonders the Ancestral Court's Grand Auction Hall still had in store. Outside, the Blue Gold Tree elders stretched their legs, unwilling to stay cooped up before the evening's excitement began. Tang San had Jean Miaosen stand guard at the door and activated his divine consciousness to set up a barrier, isolating the room from any prying eyes. With his high-level perception, he would know instantly if someone tried to probe inside. Only then did he take out the communicator he used to contact Mei Gongzi. His fingers tapped lightly on its surface, forming a discrete pattern only the two of them knew. Before long, a reply came from the other side. A few light taps, indicating to wait a moment. Clearly, Mei Gongzi needed to prepare before communicating with him. He didn't have to wait too long. After a few minutes, Mei Gongzi's voice came through. Mei Gongzi's gentle voice carried an obvious note of affection. Tang San smiled and replied, "Wherever you are, there I am." "You're at the Ancestral Court's Grand Auction as well?" Mei Gongzi asked in surprise. Tang San chuckled. "Why wouldn't I be here? Anyway, I hear you managed to win something. Though it was a bit expensive, it seems to be related to the Azura sword. I can sense the seed of sword intent resonating with it. It even feels a little restless. I'm not entirely sure what's going on yet. The Shadow Fiend sword is now inside my sea of consciousness, and it seems to be constantly prodded by the Azura sword's intent. I reached out to you because of that. Don't do anything right now. Control the Azura sword. Don't let it completely take over the Shadow Fiend sword. I'm worried it could cause a big commotion. After the auction ends, I'll take you back to Kali City with me to see how to deal with this artifact. I already have a few ideas, so don't worry. It's definitely a good thing. Okay, but where exactly are you? Can I see you? No, forget it, let's not risk it. With so many emperors around, it could be trouble if we're discovered. Just make sure you stay safe. Tang San smiled. Don't worry, I'll be fine. I love you. Thanks. Then let's hang up for now. I can't keep my clan waiting outside for too long. If you need anything, contact me. If there's anything you want to bid on, let me know. I have plenty of money. Tang San rolled his eyes and thought to himself, once you realize I'm Jean Mirolan, don't blame me for making you spend more money. I genuinely wanted to bid on the Shadow Fiend sword to give it to you. No need. There's nothing I really need, and if there happens to be something, I have my own ways to bid for it. Just go ahead and spend as you wish. Alright then. I'll see you. After ending the call, Tang San relaxed, motioning for Jean Miaosan to lift the seal. He once again released the Radiant Dragon Spear, holding it in his hand and slowly infusing it with his divine consciousness. Previously, in front of the Sunborn Nymph Emperor, he'd only used his life energy to nourish the Radiant Dragon Spear to put on a show. Truly mastering a powerful artifact required establishing a connection with one's divine consciousness. In fact, the moment he absorbed the Radiant Dragon Spear, he had already fully suppressed it. Acting arrogant? Nonsense. In the presence of the Sea God's trident, even if it was just a projection, how could an ordinary artifact possibly rebel? Now the Radiant Dragon Spear had become completely docile and obedient, willingly accepting Tang San's divine consciousness and constantly projecting feelings of warmth and even flattery. Divine artifacts all had a high level of spirituality, especially one of this caliber. Tang San's divine seat was a tremendous boon for the Radiant Dragon Spear, and it was well aware of that. More importantly, it had gone without a master for far too long. Though still formidable, its spirituality had gradually waned from neglect. Thus, it was particularly discerning when choosing a new master. It wanted one whose attributes aligned and whose power was sufficient to nourish it. Once it merged with Tang San and felt the immense divine energy he held within, as well as the presence of his divine seat, it immediately became compliant and eager, as though terrified Tang San might abandon it. Feeling the feedback from the Radiant Dragon Spear, the pure light energy nourishing his body, Tang San revealed a satisfied expression. With his current cultivation, very few things could still offer him significant aid. But the light energy of the spear complemented the ancestral tree's life energy beautifully, almost as if it elevated his very life force. This was truly a genuine divine artifact of the highest quality. No wonder Suan Yu had been in such agony over losing it. The second half of the auction was somewhat dull compared to the first day. There were no particularly valuable items early on. Even when a few divine artifacts appeared towards the end, they were of little use to Tang San. They were things meant for specific races. Instead, he made a few bids for resources and materials. And so, the second day's auction ended in this manner. Night fell, and the grand auction venue soon grew quiet. Most of the bidders quickly entered meditation to restore their energy. Those who could participate were all powerhouses. Several days without rest wasn't a big deal. But in such a stifling environment, exhaustion was inevitable. Suddenly, a divine consciousness knocked on the door of VIP Room 8. Clan leader Jean, might we have a word? Tang San opened his eyes. What had to come would come. Even knowing that Sunborn stood behind him, the other party's desire for the weapon had driven him to seek this meeting. All right. Tang San responded with a single word, then rose and walked out of the room alone, without letting the Blue Gold Tree clan elders follow. In front of the VIP Room 10, Suan Yu had also stepped out alone. The two of them exchanged glances and a slight nod before heading down the corridor, away from VIP Room 9, to have a proper discussion. Suan Yu had changed into a more modest outfit, looking just like an ordinary human youth. One couldn't deny that the light aura around him was exceedingly rich, and his gentle features were quite easy on the eye. "Hello, clan leader Jean." Suan Yu greeted Tang San with a respectful nod. "Brother Su." Tang San cut straight to the point. "You're here about the radiant dragon spear, aren't you?" Suan Yu nodded. "Indeed. Clan leader Jean, from its very name, you should understand how significant this artifact is to my clan. It was forged from the remains of my ancestor and represents a chapter of shame in our history that can never be washed away. I won't hide it from you. Just getting the ancestral court's emperors to agree to auction it took a great deal of effort on my part. I never imagined it would slip away, so I'll be blunt. Name your price. As long as it's within my power to pay, I will. And I also promise you this. If the Blue Gold Tree clan ever needs aid, the Radiant Dragon clan will stand by your side." Tang San narrowed his eyes. "Then let me ask you a question, Brother Su. To you, is the Radiant Dragon Spear more important for its meaning to your clan? Or are you mainly after it to improve your odds in the tournament?" Without a hint of hesitation, Suan Yu replied, "Its value to us as a foundational artifact is far more important. It's the body of my ancestor, a memory my clan must never forget. It must return to us. It must." His tone was resolute. Though he didn't say it outright, the implication was clear. If Tang San gave him the Radiant Dragon Spear, they'd be friends in the future. If he didn't, they'd be enemies. And to be saying this even while knowing the Sunborn Nymph Emperor was backing the Blue Gold Tree clan spoke volumes about just how vital the Radiant Dragon Spear was to him. Tang San said, "Since that's how you feel, if I promise to return the Radiant Dragon Spear to you after the matchmaking tournament, at the same price I bought it for, would that satisfy you, Brother Su?" Suan Yu was stunned. He hadn't expected such a response from Tang San. Before coming to see him, Suan Yu had braced himself for refusal and prepared all sorts of arguments, both threats and enticements, to persuade Tang San. But he hadn't anticipated this. Tang San sighed. "Brother Su, you're the leader of the Radiant Dragon clan, the future master of Crystal City. The blood of a dragon is as precious as amethystine. How many bloodlines are as powerful? You've always been a favored child of heaven, and among your peers, you stand at the very top. But the Blue Gold Tree clan is different. Although we have over 40 people at the 10th order or above, which is a formidable number for any clan, we're not skilled in combat. Before I became clan leader, to avoid being hunted, our people didn't even dare to leave Skytree City's inner district. Not even our gods were allowed to leave. That's a tragic fate, wouldn't you agree? Since the Ancestral Tree's awakening, we've finally had a chance to step out, but I know we still can't escape being viewed as resources. What can we do? All I can do as clan leader is to carve out a little survival space for my people. That's why I've petitioned the Ancestral Court to allow the Blue Gold Tree clan to become a neutral clan. One that can travel to all big cities to help channel and purify life energy, supporting all races. Only then can we gain enough value to avoid being slaughtered outright, while still satisfying those powerful races that covet us." As he spoke, there was a trace of helplessness and sorrow on his face that even stirred Suan Yu's own blood. The law of the demon continent had always been the law of the jungle. The weak were nothing but prey. Suan Yu knew the Blue Gold Tree clan's plight well, and he was aware that even the dragon race had a hand in their decline, much like every other major race. Neutral? You mean? With the Ancestral Tree's awakening, it has left its imprint on our people, especially those at the 10th order or higher. With this imprint, as long as we're rooted in a city, we can channel and refine the life energy in and around that city, elevating it to a higher level. This benefits all life within the city, and the resources it produces can be shared. That's a good thing, Suan Yu exclaimed, clearly moved by the idea. Tang San nodded. It is. And with the Ancestral Tree's imprint, we don't have to fear persecution anymore. Because if someone kills a clan member with the imprint, that imprint can trigger self-detonation. Not only will that cause massive destruction, but it will be immediately sensed by the Ancestral Tree. The Ancestral Tree would then see the killer's clan as an enemy and strip their life essence, leading to decline. Now, of course, nobody wants that to happen. We're not suicidal. But neutrality is our future. With this status, the great cities wouldn't just stop persecuting us, they'll even protect us to ensure their own growth. Mutual benefit is the only path to long-term stability.
Su an iu rigger tang san thao gu fun.
He had to admit he was impressed. If this could really be realized, it would be a tremendous boon to any main city's life energy reserves. Tang San continued, I won't hide it, Brother Su. The life energy of the demon continent is ultimately finite. Though we're at the center of the world now, truly high-tier life energy is still limited. It takes a long time to refine ordinary life energy into something higher level. The earlier we start, the better. There are over a dozen main cities, plus the smaller ones. Su Yu was no simple man, and he understood the implication. Tang San didn't need to say anything out loud. Clan leader Jean, you're hoping I'll support your clan's neutral status? Tang San smiled. If you're willing to help, that would be best. After all, I believe you'll be the future master of Crystal City. Su Yu said solemnly, if you're willing to return the Radiant Dragon Spear to me now, I can promise that if I do control Crystal City, even if the Ancestral Court doesn't formally recognize your neutral status, the city's gates will be open to the Blue Gold Tree clan, and the dragon race will guarantee your people's safety within the city. He was a decisive man, and he made a clear promise even though he wasn't yet the city lord. Tang San sighed again. Brother Su, you still don't understand my point. Do you think I wanted to get the Radiant Dragon Spear? Whatever would I need it for? The only reason I bid on it was because you're too strong. In the matchmaking tournament, your strength would be a threat to other contenders. I promise you, after the tournament ends, I'll return the Radiant Dragon Spear. But I also hope you'll support the Blue Gold Tree clan's neutral status in the future. Su Yu nodded. Tang San's meaning was plain. Purchasing the Radiant Dragon Spear wasn't for his own benefit, but rather for the benefit of the Solstice Empire. As a member of that country, what could he do? After the competition, it would no longer matter. Hence the earlier question about whether the spear mattered for the competition or for the Radiant Dragon clan itself. He took a deep breath, and his eyes flashed with a decisive light. I understand now. Thank you for being honest, clan leader Jean. I'll think about what you've said. With that, he gave Tang San a slight nod and turned to leave. Watching Su Yu's back as he walked away, Tang San's lips curved slightly. No wonder Crystalline had a good impression of him. He truly was an impressive figure. Once he understood the situation, he didn't press further, knowing that given the clash between the Solstice Empire and the Empyrean Dominion, Tang San couldn't just hand the spear back now. The Blue Gold Tree clan was just a pawn in the struggle, and given their combat weakness, even the Empyrean Dominion couldn't do much to change that. Moreover, Tang San had made it clear what the Blue Gold Tree clan wanted for the future, and what their value could be. Su Yu would need to weigh all of this carefully. Letting me take the blame again, are we? You really know how to make use of others. Poor Su Yu has no idea how devious you are. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor's amused voice echoed in Tang San's mind. Tang San gave a wry smile. Your Majesty, you wrong me. What else can I do? I'm just a young blue gold tree. Of course, he knew full well the Sunborn Nymph Emperor had been listening in on his conversation with Su Yu. He deliberately let the Emperor hear it. Humph. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor snorted but said no more. Tang San's smile widened, but deep within him, there wasn't even a trace of amusement. Not even the Sunborn Nymph Emperor could have discerned his true feelings at this moment. With the second night over, the auction entered its final day. Undoubtedly, it would also be the most crucial. When the Emperor presiding over the auction appeared on the stage today, all the bidders couldn't help but gasp. It wasn't just anyone. It was the Sunborn Nymph Emperor. His face remained somewhat indistinct, impossible to see clearly, but that unmistakable solar aura dominated the entire hall. Standing on the auction stage, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor spoke lightly. Today's auction will be split into two halves. I will preside over the first half, and the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor will take over for the second. This alone should tell you how seriously we take this event. Yesterday, there was an attempted ambush on a bidder. We're well aware of it. I very much hope that whoever it was dares to show themselves again today. Today's auction won't be as long as the previous days. Each half will only feature 10 items. But I can assure you that all 20 of today's items are either top-tier divine items, or at least on par with one in some aspect. They are the finest treasures the Ancestral Court has accumulated over the years. The moment he took the stage, He had already captured the attention of every bidder present. There was nothing more exhilarating than having the strongest nymph emperor as the auctioneer. 20 items, each a top-tier divine item or equivalent. In the entire history of the ancestral court, or even of the entire demon continent, such a feat had never been seen. And yet it was happening today. It spoke volumes about the level of this auction. Bring up today's first auction item, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor commanded in a low voice, at the same time casting a covert glance toward the VIP rooms. At that moment in room 8, Tang San felt the gentle brush of divine consciousness, and the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. The first item slowly rose up, a soft, 7-colored radiance emanating from it, creating a truly enchanting sight. It was a gem about the size of a fist. Yes, a gemstone. The gemstone gave off a strange glow, though it wasn't especially bright. Those 7-colored hues seemed like a condensed rainbow. The soft 7-colored light seemed entirely contained within and didn't radiate outward in the slightest, so the bidders actually couldn't sense its aura at all. All they could see was that dazzling multicolored light. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor chuckled. The first item of today's auction will be conducted in a rather interesting manner. You've spent 2 days here already and I believe you're rather tired, so for this item we'll do something new. A blind bid. Its aura is fully contained and there will be no introduction, so you'll bid purely on your intuition. The starting price is 1 amethystine coin, the increment is also 1 coin. Highest bidder wins. As for its use, you'll have to guess. The auction begins now. Bid as you please. For a moment everyone was stunned. The fuck? Why is this so random? In such an important auction, where the Sunborn Nymph Emperor had just stated that today's items were all some hot shit, he suddenly announced a blind auction with no introduction or aura to sense. How were they supposed to bid? Even a single amethystine coin was no small sum. A countryside clan like the Wind Wolf clan had likely never seen an amethystine coin in their entire history. And what if this item, which could allegedly rival a peak divine item, was merely beautiful but useless? That would be a major setback. Even some of the veteran powerhouses had no idea what this gemstone was, or what it could do. For a moment, the entire hall erupted in a flurry of discussion. To everyone's surprise, it took mere moments before the first bid suddenly rang out. 5,000 amethystine coins from VIP room 8. The bidder, of course, was none other than Tang San. Before the bidding began, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor had sent him a divine consciousness message, simply saying, "You must give me face." Tang San had almost rolled his eyes. You could just say "you must give me money" and be done with it. This blind bid clearly needed an inside man, or rather an outside man, to prop it up. Tang San didn't hesitate for a second. Yesterday, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor had supported him, and now he was directly calling in that favor. What could Tang San do? He was just a young blue gold tree, so he bid right away. And the moment this price was called out, the entire hall erupted. 5,000! Did that kid eat his own poison berries? All eyes turned to the 8th VIP box. Even the Sunborn Nymph Emperor hadn't expected Tang San to respond so decisively. After all, it was a complete mystery. And while he had said it was at least on par with a divine item, that didn't mean it was a divine item. And even assuming it was, who could guarantee it wasn't the weakest of them all? If there was any certainty in that respect, why would it be blind auctioned? A normal divine item had thus far gone for about 1,000 amethystine coins, more or less. A high-level one, 2 or 3,000, 5,000, that was already the absolute cream of the crop, like the Radiant Dragon Spear. And that was only with the inflated prices of this special auction. Otherwise, the price would be even lower. Tang San's opening bid of 5,000 instantly set the tone for the mysterious 7-colored gem. At that moment, his role as the auction's plant seemed undeniable. Even the Sunborn Nymph Emperor was speechless. Truly, to be young, rich and capricious. The money Jean Miolin had gotten from selling the blue gold fruits was spent by now, every single coin. This young sapling really was a wonder. 5,000 amethystine coins. Any higher? The Sunborn Nymph Emperor asked, though he really wasn't hoping for anything. Why was this 7-colored gem up for blind bidding? Why no introduction? The reason was simple. The emperors themselves didn't know what it was. This 7-colored gem had been in the ancestral court for a very long time. The emperors could sense that its internal energy was indeed up to par for divine items, but as for its use, no one could tell. Being near it gave one a slight feeling of calmness and peace, but it was no help for cultivating either bloodline power or divine consciousness. It was a bit like the spacetime beacon that Tang San had won before. But at least that had an obvious time-slowing effect, whereas this 7-colored gem didn't show any function at all. Damn, I really put that kid in a tight spot. Oh well, I'll make up for it later. Though he was the instigator, the sun-born nymph emperor felt a twinge of guilt. 5,000 amethystine coins was no trivial sum. And of course, no one else was willing to pay the fool's tax. 5,000 amethystine coins going once. 5,000 amethystine coins going twice. 5,000 amethystine coins sold. Congratulations to VIP Room 8, the sun-born nymph emperor declared. He could almost see the blue gold tree elders scolding their young leader. But what he couldn't see was the look in Tang San's eyes. Tang San's expression was calm, and he was explaining to the blue gold tree elders in a low voice that the sun-born nymph emperor had asked him to do this. But in complete contrast with his plain expression, in Tang San's eyes burned an irrepressible excitement. What had he come to this auction for? Not the celestial fox demon emperor's blood essence. Not the radiant dragon spear. Not the throne of frost. Those were fine, but none of them could change his destiny. He had hoped to find something truly special like the spacetime beacon back in the day. Something that would be precious even to a god king, yet unrecognized by this realm's powerhouses. And this thing might just be it that he who has the will ought to make the effort, and results will inevitably come. While everyone else thought Tang San was a fool, tricked into wasting his money on a useless purchase, how could they possibly know how exhilarating and blissful he felt at this moment? What exactly was that 7-colored gemstone? With just a single glance, Tang San immediately understood that no one else in this plane could possibly recognize it. And indeed, how could they? Such a supreme treasure required extraordinary means to even identify, and no one in this plane was at the required level. Not even emperors. It had a beautiful name, the Heart of Nature. As for what it was a plane's ultimate natural treasure. Something that was condensed when a plane's natural energy reached an overwhelming peak. Each plane could only produce one. The Heart of Nature, about the size of a fist, was something Tang San had only seen once in all his years as a god king. And what was its function? Attunement to nature? In spite of its name, that was actually not the case. Its use was far more profound than that. The name stemmed from it being the symbol of the entire plane. The Heart of Nature had another name, the keystone of the divine realm. For a plane to transform into a divine realm, the first requirement was to give birth to a heart of nature. Then, a supreme being could use it to generate divine energy, thus beginning the gradual evolution of the entire plane. In other words, for a mortal plane to ascend, a heart of nature was absolutely indispensable, and it could only be the heart of nature that was born within that plane itself. How could any treasure in this plane possibly be more important? On planet Phelan, despite the immense strength of all the emperors present, none of them recognized the heart of nature. Not even the planar ruler could recognize it, for the very simple reason that the planar ruler was not intelligent. It had sentience and it was aware that this item was important, but it did not know why. Creating a divine realm was exceedingly difficult, and the greatest challenge lay in transcendent insight. Without being awakened properly, even if 100,000 years passed, even if 100 million years passed, this heart of nature would remain here unnoticed, and the plane could never become a divine realm. For Tang San personally, the heart of nature was of no use whatsoever. After all, he was already the master of a divine realm, and had no intention of creating another. But having the heart of nature of planet Phelan in his possession meant holding the ultimate bargaining chip. It gave him tremendous leverage in negotiations with the planar ruler. In other words, with this in hand, being able to ascend to emperorhood was all but certain. How could the sun-born nymph emperor possibly understand what kind of treasure he had given Tang San? Purely in terms of value, all the artifacts of planet Phelan combined would not be as precious as this heart of nature. Its worth to the plane itself was even higher than the value of the spacetime beacon. As for the following 19 auction items, Tang San genuinely didn't care any longer. There might be some good things among them, But he was absolutely certain that none of them could possibly surpass the value of the heart of nature. If that's what you people call the fool's tax, then I am damn happy to be up to date with my tax payments. Tang San struggled with his emotions, suppressing the urge to smile. It wasn't until the auction for the second item had already begun that he finally managed to pull himself together. He was naturally extremely eager to have the heart of nature safe in his hands, but he kept reminding himself to stay calm. He absolutely could not let anyone see how much he valued this treasure. In fact, he even knew exactly how to begin Planet Phelan's evolution into a divine realm. He would need to embed the heart of nature into the ancestral tree, fusing it with the plane's life source. This would naturally give rise to divine energy. Although the process would take a long time, it would signify the true beginning of the plane's evolution. But of course, with things as they stood, he had absolutely no intention of doing that. The reason was simple. Right now, this entire plane was ruled by demons and nymphs. If they had the foundation of a divine realm which would allow them to become true gods, then humanity would lose every chance to rise forever. Lost in his thoughts about the heart of nature, Tang San didn't even know what the second auction item was, and it was quickly concluded at a high price. "Big brother, are you alright? It's okay, it's only 5,000 amethystin coins. We'll earn it back in the future," Jean Miaosan said, gently comforting Tang San. The Grand Elder added, "Clan leader, don't worry about it. We can afford to lose 5,000, and besides it might turn out to be useful. And even if it doesn't, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor now owes us a favor. That's no small thing." They could all see Tang San's absent-mindedness, especially since the second auction item was actually quite useful to them. A cloak that resonated strongly with life energy. But Tang San hadn't even touched his button, so they assumed he was simply feeling distressed about the money.
I'm fine.
I was just thinking about something. Let's continue bidding." Presenting the third auction item, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor announced from the stage. Soon the third item was brought up to the auction block. It was a shield entirely black in color, with a pattern resembling a tortoise shell across its surface. It radiated an incredibly heavy aura, and faint wisps of water vapor seemed to rise from it. This is a divine shield known as the Dark Turtle Shield. It was created from the carapace of the Dark Turtle Demon Emperor, who fell 5,000 years ago. In its time, it was hailed as the strongest defensive artifact. However, the conditions to fully unlock the Dark Turtle Shield's power are not easy to fulfill. In fact, since its creation, no one has ever been able to unleash its full potential. Still, even just its baseline defensive strength is more than enough to be considered a divine item. We're auctioning it today in the hope that someone can truly awaken its might and restore its radiance to the world, the Sunborn Nymph Emperor explained. Meanwhile, in VIP Room 8, Tang San's eyes had gone blank. Again. The Dark Turtle Shield? What the hell are you talking about? That's the Black Tortoise, the Divine Beast Black Tortoise. With a moment's thought, he understood what had happened. He had to admit, Planet Phelan was indeed a place of unparalleled natural bounty. The Dark Turtle, upon reaching the Emperor level, must have evolved into the Divine Beast Black Tortoise. The Black Tortoise represented water, heaviness, absolute defense, and the northern direction. Had this been a divine realm, it would have become the Northern Guardian Beast, a first-class god. But the problem was that while Planet Phelan's resources were so rich, it had never evolved into a divine realm. So even though the Black Tortoise had the potential to reach that level, it still couldn't escape the limits of mortality and eventually perished. At its death, the essence of the Black Tortoise condensed into this shield, an absolutely extraordinary treasure. In a divine realm, if a first-class god sacrificed their entire essence to create an artifact, it would be a divine item of the absolute highest class. In fact, if refined by a god king and enhanced with a few other precious materials, it could even become a transcendent divine item. In other words, this Black Tortoise Shield was effectively the seed of a transcendent divine item. As for why no one had been able to fully unlock its power, the reason was simple. It was just like the fire god's scepter. Without a divine seat, it was fundamentally impossible to activate. What a treasure indeed. He had to win it. This was something he could definitely bring back with him to the divine realm. Once he restored his god-king cultivation, turning this into a transcendent divine item would not be particularly difficult. 1. The word that we translated as dark turtle can in fact be translated as black tortoise as well, but since the word for dark/black, that also means profound, mysterious, obscure, is the same in both words, we rendered it as dark turtle to make the difference more visible. As for the divine beast, its name actually does not contain the word for turtle/tortoise. It's known as Xuanwu, dark/profound warrior, due to its association with the god Xuanwu, one of the most powerful deities in the Taoist pantheon, who is said to have transformed into a black tortoise with a snake as its tail at one point. The starting price for the dark turtle shield is 2,000 amethystin coins, with each increment no less than 100 amethystin coins. You may start bidding. This starting price was not exaggerated. Such was the standard for normal divine items. However, it met with a rather cold reception. The reason for this was simple. It was not easy to use. The dark turtle shield was actually quite a renowned divine item, but it was famous precisely because it was unusable. Not only was it extremely heavy, but none of the known bloodlines, including the bloodlines of all the turtle and tortoise demon clans, could fully integrate with it and thereby unleash its true might. All it could offer was its pure defensive power. Of course, it was truly powerful. Not even an emperor's attacks could break it. This had been verified multiple times. The problem was that carrying such a massive and cumbersome shield that could not be integrated with one's bloodline abilities made fighting with it unfeasible. Most demon and nymph powerhouses relied on their own innate abilities in battle. After all things considered, whether in terms of toughness or mobility, it was nothing but a glorified steel wall. Nearly every emperor had tried to use this divine item, but no one had succeeded so far. Naturally, those in the know would not bother bidding for it. As for those who didn't know, they could not afford it anyway. After all, its pure defensive power was unmatched. Even if it couldn't be activated, it wouldn't be sold cheaply. 2,000 amethystin coins might not be an outrageous price relative to its actual value, but it was still the price of a high-level divine item. Who would want to spend so much money to buy a useless item? So, as soon as the auction for the dark turtle shield began, it fell into a lull. No one was bidding. Sitting in VIP room 8, Tang San's expression became somewhat peculiar when he saw that no one was interested in bidding. No one wants the black tortoise shield? That's really funny. But then again, I suppose it makes sense. It'd take an emperor, or at least a great demon king with an extremely powerful physique, to even move it from that platform. Well, since that's the case, I suppose I don't have to go all in for it. 2,000 amethystin coins, VIP room 8. When this bid came in, even the sunborn nymph emperor was somewhat moved. How could he not be moved? When this item was brought out, it was really just to pad out the item count. After all, even the ancestral court didn't have an endless supply of divine items to auction off. The dark turtle shield had last been dumped into a vault under Council Mountain a good 1,000 years ago, and this was just a chance to let it get some fresh air. Maybe some clueless but wealthy dumbass might buy it on a whim. The ancestral court had long seen it as a hot potato. If it were just a divine item that couldn't be used, that would be one thing. But the dark turtle shield was also extremely domineering, constantly absorbing vast amounts of water energy from its surroundings. The ancestral court lost huge quantities of water energy to it every year. And even using divine consciousness or walls made of high-grade materials to isolate it didn't help. Selling it was naturally the best outcome. When the sunborn nymph emperor was auctioning this item, he had already prepared himself for it to go unsold. Even though this was a top-level auction, no one would be foolish enough to buy something that couldn't be used. Yet a fool had indeed appeared. Of course, the sunborn nymph emperor did not think Tang San was a fool, but he did remember that he had spoken with Tang San earlier. Clearly, Tang San was stepping in to help him save face, making a bid to ease the awkward atmosphere. How could the sunborn nymph emperor not be moved? His gaze turned to VIP room 8, and he nodded slightly, his smile quite a bit broader. Even though Tang San couldn't see his face clearly, he could still sense the emperor's satisfaction. And in this case, he was very happy to make Sunborn happy. 2,000 amethystin coins for the seed of a transcendent divine item? And the money wasn't even his own? Where else could one find such a good deal? As expected, no one else was foolish enough to compete with VIP Room 8 and the Blue Gold Tree Clan, who were already seen as crazy. A few moments later, Tang San had successfully secured the shield. After winning the Black Tortoise shield, Tang San even wondered if he should stop participating in the auction altogether in order to avoid wasting more of his good fortune. His haul this time was just ridiculous. While the earlier items were certainly respectable, these last two were truly priceless treasures. He had basically stumbled on an incredible stroke of luck. These two items could not be measured in mere monetary terms. Their significance was enough to influence the fate of an entire plane, especially the heart of nature. What more could he want? Thus, he decided to keep a lower profile for the remainder of the auction. There was no need to overly flaunt the Blue Gold Tree clan's wealth. If it weren't for Mei Gongzi, he wouldn't even want to participate in the matchmaking tournament anymore. He'd rather find a secluded place to close up and quickly become an emperor. He had no need of the ancestral court's approval, and with the heart of nature in hand, there would be no problem crossing the tribulation. He could just tell the planar ruler to piss off and that would be the end of it. At this moment, Tang San was in particularly good spirits, extremely good spirits. Indeed, he did not participate again. The following items were still excellent, treasures that could temporarily boost one's power or potent divine items. But these no longer caught Tang San's eye. And because he had helped the Sunborn Nymph Emperor offload the two problematic items, the latter no longer sent him any discreet signals. Soon, the auction of the first 10 items was completed. The most prized item was the last one, a truly formidable divine item. It was a massive hammer suitable only for giant races like the behemoths or golden mammoths, whose power was mostly sheer physical might. It fetched a high price of 9,000 amethystine coins. So far, the highest price reached in the entire auction remained Tang San's earlier bid for the Radiant Dragon Spear, 12,000 amethystine coins. Other than that, no other items had reached the 10,000 mark. The Sunborn Nymph Emperor then announced a 1-hour break, after which the final 10 items of the auction, undoubtedly the most valuable, would be presented. Everyone was eager to see what the grand finale would be. This time, Tang San did not invite the Sunborn Nymph Emperor for any polite small talk. Instead, he quietly slipped away with the clan elders to settle the payment for his items. With nearly all the emperors present, no one would dare try to steal them now. It would be a suicidal move. He was truly eager to get his hands on the Black Tortoise shield and Heart of Nature. Only once they were in his possession would he feel at ease. And once the money changed hands and the two treasures were finally presented to Tang San, even with his self-control, he could not prevent a flicker of excitement from flashing in his eyes. With these two priceless treasures in his possession, his path to returning to the God King level was now clear. Tang San carefully cradled the Heart of Nature in his hands. The 7-colored gemstone emitted a faint glow and even seemed to pulse slightly, as if it had sensed something. Tang San knew what it had sensed. A foreign element. The Heart of Nature was rejecting him. This was only natural, as the material embodiment of a plane's most fundamental aspects, and the key to its evolution, it made perfect sense that it rejected outsiders. Though the Heart of Nature had no consciousness of its own, it naturally reacted to the presence of divinity within Tang San, specifically to the presence of a divine seat that did not belong to this plane. How could it not feel repelled? Once the Heart of Nature of a plane was taken away by someone from a divine realm, the plane would fall under the control of that divine realm, or even be devoured by it. This was an omen of its destruction. Tang San's divine consciousness immediately settled on the surface of the Heart of Nature. In his palm, a faint layer of warped light appeared, silently enveloping the Heart of Nature, and preventing it from erupting with an utterly cataclysmic repellent force. The space-time beacon and the Heart of Nature were on the same level of existence, and since the former had been refined by Tang San into the space-time lighthouse, it was the perfect vessel to contain the Heart of Nature. It instantly sealed the Heart of Nature into a space-time bubble, completely isolated from any and all external influences, and then drew it into itself. Tang San let out a small breath of relief. If the Heart of Nature had suddenly gone berserk, it would have plunged the entire ancestral court, or whatever was left of it, into absolute chaos and shock. Thankfully, he had been prepared and he had the space-time lighthouse. Otherwise, he would have had to rely on the projection of the sea god's trident just to barely suppress the Heart of Nature, and even that seal would have been unstable. After all, The cornerstone of a divine realm was not something that could be measured against mere divine items, even transcendent ones. Especially a heart of nature this massive, corresponding to the entire flourishing and resource-rich planet Phelan. To the powerful beings at the transaction desk, it simply looked like Tang San had grasped the 7-colored gemstone in his hand, then stored it away. Clan leader Jean, you're truly remarkable. We tried many times, but this gemstone couldn't be placed inside any storage equipment. Yet you did it. The one in charge at the delivery point was a great demon king of the Golden Mammoth clan, working directly for the ancestral court, and she was eyeing Tang San curiously. Tang San smiled. Well, I have to disappoint you, but I didn't really. That was not storage equipment. I used one of my clan's special abilities, granted to us by the ancestral tree. There was no need for further explanations, and using the ancestral tree as an excuse was perfect. This shield, though, well, you must be careful. It's extremely heavy, and I mean that by Golden Mammoth standards. I have to use 80% of my strength just to lift it. Most rings and other storage equipment can't contain it, unless they are spacious enough to hold a small mountain. The great demon king trailed off as she saw a blue light flickering on Tang San's finger, and enveloping the pitch-black tortoise shield. The next moment it was gone. Tang San smiled again. Now this was a piece of storage equipment. No worries, my storage ring is up to the task. I don't know about a small mountain, but it does have quite a large space. Thank you very much. With that, he turned and left with the elders of the Blue Gold Tree clan, leaving the Golden Mammoth Great Demon King staring blankly. It took her a long while to pull herself back together. She muttered inwardly, as expected of a city lord. Even if it's just Skytree City, it still has plenty of good stuff. Seems the Blue Gold Tree clan is wealthier than I thought. They've really made a splash at this auction, though I suppose it's just because they're rich and clueless. That gemstone and shield were the bottom of the chest items of the ancestral court. He could have spent that money on dinner and he would have been better off. Tang San couldn't possibly care less about her thoughts, or anybody else's. At this moment, his mood couldn't have been better. And just as he returned to the VIP area, he happened to run into Mei Gongzi, who had just come back from somewhere. City Lord Mei, greetings. Still wearing the Tang San greeted her with a smile. Mei Gongzi's face was veiled, so her expression was anybody's guess, but she gave a slight nod in return, then continued walking toward her VIP room. In his elated mood, Tang San couldn't help but tease her. City Lord Mei, if we were to end up together after the matchmaking tournament, wouldn't that be the most far-flung romance on the continent? You on the eastern shore, me on the western one. Mei Gongzi's delicate figure stiffened slightly, and her steps paused for an instant. Without even turning her head, she said coolly, "Don't waste your time fantasizing about things that will never happen." Tang San chuckled. "I've always believed that in this world, there's nothing that's truly impossible. What if by some chance it does happen?" Mei Gongzi suddenly turned back to face him, and the ice in her tone made the throne of frost feel like a heated massage chair. "You will die before it happens." The icy murderous intent that flared from her in that instant was directed at Tang San alone, enveloping him in a chilling aura. Tang San quickly raised both hands in a gesture of surrender, speaking a bit helplessly. "City Lord Mei, why so cold? In this world, truly nothing is impossible. If it really happened, couldn't we just get along?" A trace of surprise flashed in Mei Gongzi's beautiful eyes. She realized that when her killing intent swept over Tang San, it dissipated as effortlessly as spring snow melting in the sun, leaving no trace behind. She had always been confident in her killing intent, which was rooted in the innate ability of the White Tiger transformation, and further refined into the god-killing domain that Tang San had helped her acquire. With the Shadow Fiend sword amplifying the Azura sword's power, it had even evolved recently, and her killing intent was now no weaker than that of her grandfather. Yet the leader of the Blue Gold Tree clan, by all accounts a clan that could not even protect the lives of its own members, had neutralized it like it was nothing. Was it his cultivation? Or some special ability tailored to counter her? She shot Tang San a cold glare, clearly not wanting to speak with him any further, and turned to leave again. "Big brother, please don't provoke her, alright? Do you really like her?" Jean Miaosen's voice was trembling a bit. Tang San laughed. "What would be wrong with me truly liking her? Everyone has the right to pursue beauty. I beg you, big brother, I don't want a sister-in-law like that. She's terrifying. Although Mei Gongxi's killing intent had been directed at Tang San alone, Jin Miaosan's heart was still racing from the cold intensity of her aura. Let's go back. Tang San smiled. In his heart, though, he was thinking, when little Mei eventually learns that Jin Miaolan is actually Tang San, how will she react? Basically, how hard am I courting death these days? But right now, he was in an exceptionally good mood. With the black tortoise shield and the heart of nature, there were few things left in this world for him to worry about. By the time he was back in his VIP room, it was already midday. Today's final auction would end during the daylight. The morning's auction had been hosted by the Sunborn Nymph Emperor personally. For the afternoon's auction, it would be the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor presiding. The ancestral court's level of importance placed on this auction had truly reached unprecedented heights. Meanwhile, in VIP room 11, Mei Gongxi's expression had turned a bit grave. Ever since she had broken through to the 11th order, her strength had been growing by leaps and bounds, especially as she became more attuned to the Azura sword. And with her 3 bloodlines blending harmoniously, she felt truly confident in herself. But her brief clash with Jin Miaolan had left her feeling serious doubt. Blue gold trees were not known for their combat prowess. Yet their clan leader had shrugged her killing aura as if it was nothing more than a spring breeze. His cultivation felt unfathomable to her senses. If even a weakling clan leader has such hidden depths, how powerful must the others be in this tournament? The other city lords like Donghua, just how strong are they really? To claim the title of emperor, there was no doubt that all participants would give it their all. Could she truly walk this path to the end alongside Tang San? She still didn't even know how Tang San planned to enter the tournament. If he lost during the qualifiers, she didn't even dare to think any further. As that thought crossed her mind, she quietly activated her communicator, gently tapping it with her finger while using her divine consciousness to block off the area around her. A familiar voice soon came through. Hearing his voice finally brought a measure of calm to Mei Gongxi's heart. I just ran into the leader of the Blue Gold Tree clan. He must not be underestimated. If you face him in the tournament, you have to be very careful, Mei Gongxi said softly. It's hard to explain, but he gave me a deep and unfathomable feeling. Actually, just now, he tried to flirt with me. I intended to suppress him with my killing aura, but he dispelled it effortlessly. I didn't even see him do anything. Ever since I got the Shadow Fiend sword, my god-killing domain seems to have evolved, but even that killing aura didn't seem to affect him at all. He's definitely not what he seems on the surface. You must be careful. Alright, I'll be cautious. Don't forget, when the auction ends, I'll take you back to Kali City. I'll meet you at the White Tiger Hotel then. Love you. After ending the call, Mei Gongxi finally relaxed a little. As long as Tang San was there, she felt she could stay grounded. She silently prayed that this matchmaking tournament would go smoothly. She knew it now. The way this tournament would unfold, and what would come out of it, was completely out of her control. A 1-hour break wasn't too long. By the time everyone was back to their seats, the sun was just past its zenith, and its intense rays made the entire auction hall heat up. After more than 2 days of intense bidding, the regular auction participants were already quite exhausted. But now they were about to witness the auction of the final 10 items, the most important ones. Everyone forced themselves to stay alert. Even though 99% of the people here wouldn't be able to compete for these items, they still wanted to see just how valuable these ultimate treasures were. They all knew that this would be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. A soft white light descended from the sky, and a tall figure appeared silently on the auction platform. When he emerged, clouds quietly gathered in the sky, cutting off the harsh sunlight so it wouldn't blind the bidders. In VIP room 8, Tang San also sat up straighter, his eyes fixed on the screen. The one who appeared on the stage was none other than the de facto head of the ancestral court, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, the Master of Destiny. Even back when the Crystal Demon Emperor was still alive, it had been the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor who handled the ancestral court's day-to-day affairs. After the Crystal Demon Emperor's fall, his position was somewhat shaken, but the Sunborn Nymph Emperor had no interest in managing daily affairs, so in terms of ranking, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor remained above him. As he took the stage, the attendees' eyes lit up with fervor. The number 1 emperor personally overseeing the final round of the auction. Just witnessing this made the entire event worth attending. By now they'd seen 6 emperors from up close. Most demons and nymphs would not be in the presence of a single emperor even once in a lifetime. The celestial fox demon emperor wore a faint smile, and his voice was calm and gentle as he started his speech. This is the 3rd day of the auction. That's quite a long time, and I'm sure you're all feeling the fatigue. But this auction is also the grandest and most valuable event the ancestral court has ever held. I suspect that in the next 1,000 years, there may never be another auction on this level. In this auction alone, we've presented nearly 50 divine items, and that's something even we emperors find hard to believe. Now we come to the final 10 items. They are all hand-picked treasures, each of them capable of changing the world. While I hope everyone participates actively, I also ask that you bid within your means. Do not harm your clan's foundations. Tang San watched the celestial fox demon emperor silently. With the discerning eye of heaven, he could see that the emperor's cultivation had fully recovered. His fortune seemed as stable as ever, and the divine consciousness surrounding him was calm and fluid. What deep reserves he must have, Tang San thought. He suffered severe backlash back then, yet in such a short time he's managed to recover. Truly worthy of being the top emperor of today. Of course, Tang San also understood that, just like the celestial fox demon emperor's struggles, his quick recovery was linked to none other than Tang San himself. The revival of the ancestral tree had greatly boosted the concentration of fortune across the entire demon continent. That was why the celestial fox demon emperor had sent envoys to extend a friendly hand. But precisely because of that, Tang San was rather puzzled that after his arrival for the status report, the emperor hadn't reached out to him again. In particular, Tang San's proposal for the Blue Gold Tree clan's neutrality had yet to receive a response from the ancestral court. By all logic, the neutrality of the Blue Gold Tree clan would benefit the demons more, and yet even Sunborn and the other nymph emperors had already agreed. The ancestral court's silence could only mean there was a problem on the celestial fox demon emperor's side. It seemed that a clash with him was inevitable in the future. The other emperors were a different matter. But when Tang San regained his former power, the celestial fox demon emperor was someone he had to eliminate. As long as he controlled the fortune of the world, anyone he didn't approve of would never have a chance to rise. As Tang San mused, the celestial fox demon emperor suddenly frowned, apparently for no reason. His divine consciousness flared with noticeably stronger ripples. Tang San's heart jumped, and he quickly reined in his thoughts. Although the emperor couldn't possibly know it was him, in that moment, the celestial fox demon emperor had definitely sensed his hostility. His sensitivity to such things was unparalleled. The celestial fox demon emperor himself was startled. To feel such malice meant it had to come from someone who posed a real threat to him. Mere resentment or jealousy wouldn't trigger this reaction, and neither would that happen if the one despising him was some low-level grunt. Who could it be? He wondered. Which emperor suddenly harbors such malice towards me? Sunborn? The thought flashed through his mind, but he had no time now to spare on such things. Bring out the first item, he said. The auction had to continue. The light in the hall dimmed slightly as a faint white glow rose from beneath the auction platform. A small cart appeared, floating slowly forward. On the cart sat a mask made of a white material that had a metallic sheen to it. Faint shadows flickered across its surface, seemingly reflections of something. Yet the images were too vague to see clearly. Such items were extremely rare. For it to appear here, especially with the celestial fox demon emperor himself auctioning it, there was no doubt it was a divine item. Seeing this item, some of you might be surprised, he said with a calm smile. Indeed, this is a mask. To use it, there is a condition: you must be able to assume a humanoid form. Those below the 10th order or races unable to take human form need not consider it. This mask, which we call the Illusion God Mask, allows its wearer to assume any appearance at will. And I don't mean just the face. It replicates everything perfectly down to aura and presence, provided you have made physical contact with the target or have observed them within 10 meters for at least 10 seconds. In addition, the Illusion God Mask can block all divine consciousness probing. Among the known powerhouses, There has yet to be any whose divine consciousness could pierce its defenses. This is a divine item for concealment, in other words. It will allow you to become a thousand-faced shadow, and should you not wish for your identity to be revealed, then none shall be any the wiser. An auxiliary divine item. These types of items were somewhat unusual to begin with, and concealment and disguise ones were uncommon even by that criterion. And even among the rarest of the rare, this mask was truly unique. To think that it could replicate everything, of course, apart from innate abilities, bloodline power, and the likes, and block divine consciousness as well. With this, even before an emperor, one could stand proud without fear of being detected. Of course, this wasn't an absolute disguise. The celestial fox demon emperor conveniently failed to mention whether it could block the probing of fortune, which, in other words, it couldn't. Otherwise, such an item would have never seen the light of day again once he found it. The starting bid is 3,000 amethystin coins, with each increment no less than 100 amethystin coins. Let the bidding begin. Tang San was a little tempted, in all fairness. With this mask, combined with his own abilities, he could truly become anyone he wanted. In fact, before he reached the 10th order, this would have been the absolute cream of the crop for him. Sky Shatterer and the Radiant Dragon Spear he just one paled in comparison. But now that his strength had reached this point, the Illusion God mask wouldn't play as major a role as it would have played a few years back. Besides, winning such an artifact in public view would make it known that it was in his hands, and that could become the root of trouble in the future. So it wasn't necessary. This auction item didn't draw too much heat either. The bidding rose slowly. After all, while the Illusion God mask was good, it couldn't possibly be a decisive factor in the battle for the throne. A divine item that didn't directly enhance combat power didn't have too much impact. 3,800 amethystin coins, VIP room 11. The bidding paused briefly. Clearly, this item wasn't one with overwhelming popularity, and the bid was quite high. At that moment, Tang San felt a wave of warmth in his heart. VIP room 11. This was Mei Gongzi's room. Why would she want this item? Obviously she didn't. She was bidding on it for him. She was worried that he wouldn't be able to hide his identity well during the tournament. So when she saw this divine item, she decided it was perfect for him and immediately took action. Room 11 hadn't made too many bids in the auction. The Shadow Fiend sword had been the most precious item they'd acquired, and even then it was only after Tang San drove up the price. And yet, for him, she didn't hesitate to bid high for a divine item that was of absolutely no use to her. How could Tang San not be moved? 3,900 amethystin coins, VIP room 5. The bidding continued. But Mei Gongzi was clearly not backing down. She firmly raised the price to 4,000 in one go. A few scattered competitors still remained, but her determination was unwavering. In the end, VIP room 11 secured the Illusion God mask for 4,800 amethystin coins. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor clearly felt that this first auction item hadn't drawn much excitement, in spite of the relatively high bid. Still smiling, he said, "It seems that most of you aren't very interested in concealing your identities. As it should be, those of you here should be proud of who you are. But being able to block divine sense probing is actually a very useful attribute. Well, in any case, now that it has found an owner, there's no more to be said about it. Let's move on to the second item. I'm sure there will be more interested bidders this time." The tray brought out was about the same size as before. On that tray lay a shuttle-shaped object. One, it was around 30 centimeters long and a deep golden color, with some darker patterns on it. At first glance, there was nothing particularly special about it. The God-slaying shuttle. I believe most of you should find this name quite familiar. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor spoke only this one sentence, and the hall instantly burst into a commotion. Meanwhile, in VIP room 8, Tang San was a bit confused. As it turned out, he was not part of most of you. He turned to the Grand Elder. "What's the God-slaying shuttle? Why haven't I heard of it?" The Grand Elder was momentarily stunned. "The God-slaying shuttle? What do you mean you don't know? Have you lost your—" "Oh, sorry." Tang San nodded, frowning. "There are some things I still don't recall. Please explain." The Grand Elder's expression was clearly excited. The God-slaying shuttle is a great weapon. It was once hailed as the strongest divine item, although that's fairly debatable considering it's a single-use divine weapon. No one knows exactly how it was crafted. It's long been a mystery. But it appears that it can instantly unleash a destructive force equivalent to the full power of a top emperor's strike, and focus that into a single point in order to pierce through anything in its path. The last time it appeared was about 4,000 years ago, and when it appeared, it directly killed an emperor, even though it was used by someone who wasn't even a god. It's said to have the power to pierce anything. No defense can stop it. From even older times, there are legends that it was once used by a top powerhouse to slay 3 dragons in one shot. Because of this, it's also called the dragon-slaying shuttle. There are records of it across many races' histories. It's also taught in our clan's history studies, so you really shouldn't have forgotten. Tang San rolled his eyes internally, but at the same time he felt a strange sensation. This divine weapon sounded awfully familiar, a lot like the concealed weapons of a certain sect he knew very well. How many of these god-slaying shuttles are there? The Grand Elder shook his head. No one knows. Since they haven't appeared in 4 millennia, we all thought they were gone for good. To think there's still one left, and that it would appear in this auction. Truly incredible. On the auction platform, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor continued. The god-slaying shuttle is a name that needs no introduction. Each time it has appeared in history, it has wrought unparalleled devastation. But some of its history you may not know. For instance, the part about its creator. So far as we know, it is possible that the creator of the god-slaying shuttle was not from this world. Some believe it was a visitor from beyond the heavens, and it is possible that this visitor was human. Humans themselves are weak, but they have great wisdom and creativity. Perhaps it all stems from that ancient otherworldly visitor. Now, whether or not it was truly made by an outsider, we cannot say for certain. But what I can confirm for you is that when it was used to kill 3 dragons many thousands of years ago, the one who used it was a human. The internal structure of the god-slaying shuttle is extraordinarily intricate. Even with divine consciousness, it is impossible to replicate. The second time it appeared, it killed an emperor. This was the closest event to our time, though it was still 4,000 years ago. The identity of the wielder remains unknown and unconfirmed. After that event, the ancestral court mobilized every race on the continent to search for any traces of the god-slaying shuttle and its wielder. Ultimately, they recovered this third god-slaying shuttle. But its wielder remains a mystery. We can confirm its authenticity because our ancestors used divine consciousness to carefully probe its energy, and its terrifying power is such that, among us emperors, fewer than half could hope to survive its attack. You must be wondering, if it's so terrifying, why is it in this auction? Unfortunately, I must tell you that this god-slaying shuttle is damaged. In the past, when our ancestors probed it with divine consciousness, it seems they triggered some internal mechanism, rendering it unable to be used. All that remains is the vast and terrifying energy still locked within. We're offering it in this auction in the hope that whoever claims it might research it and find a way to restore its power. Should anyone succeed, the ancestral court is willing to buy it back at 10 times the auction price. What? It's broken. I swear. All this introduction, and it turns out it's a defective product. 1. Note that this is a weaver's shuttle, not a space shuttle or something like that. Well, a space shuttle is named after a weaver's shuttle, so there's also that fact. Even though the god-slaying shuttle was damaged, there were still plenty of people interested in it. After all, the legends surrounding it were simply too fearsome. If it really could be restored, it would be an item capable of threatening an emperor's life. Of course, to the ancestral court, it was certainly considered a bottom-of-the-chest treasure, and for it to appear in this super auction meant they were truly squeezing out everything they had. Alright, let the bidding begin. The starting price is 1,000 amethystin coins, with each increment no less than 100 amethystin coins, announced the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor. The starting price wasn't high. The most attractive thing about the god-slaying shuttle was its research value. After all, since it was entirely unusable, it could only be used as a research object or a fancy collectible. If even the emperors couldn't fix it, then it likely couldn't be fixed at all, and that made the legendary weapon become nothing more than a legendary paperweight. That was why most bidders were hesitant. 1,100 amethystin coins. A first bid appeared, not from one of the VIP rooms. 1,200 amethystin coins. The bidding began. There were indeed people interested. After all, this was the god-slaying shuttle, famous for slaughtering dragons and even an emperor. The pace of bidding wasn't fast, though. At another auction, this item might not have even sold at all. Anyone with a brain would give up on it. But as the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor had said, it still had research value. Maybe something useful could be learned from it. As a result, those bidding were generally considered the brains of the demon and nymph races, those keen to obtain it and carefully study it, even if they couldn't restore it. Perhaps they'd find something. 1,700 amethystin coins, VIP Room 11. The Peacock Demon Clan also joined the bidding. While they weren't known for their research capabilities, the Etherhorn Deer Clan was. As one of the most intelligent demon clans, they had to give it a shot. Tang San hesitated for a few moments but ultimately didn't bid. He didn't dare compete with Mei Gongzi. Otherwise, he'd definitely get dealt with later. He decided that if Mei Gongzi won this item, he'd ask to borrow it for a look later. If she gave up, he'd then join the bidding. In the end, the Peacock Demon Clan really was determined and won the damaged God-slaying shuttle for 2,300 amethystin coins. The Illusion God Mask and the God-slaying shuttle, two of the final 10 items had already appeared, and both had been won by the previously low-key VIP Room 11, showing that the Peacock Demon Clan's wealth was not just a rumor. Indeed, throwing in over 7,000 amethystin coins for just two items, and both of questionable use, was a clear sign of having nothing better to do with one's money. These two auction lots definitely left many hopeful bidders a bit disappointed. Considering these were the final treasures, they didn't seem as impactful as they'd expected, and the bids reflected that. Few people had competed for them, so how would the rest fare? Bring forth the third auction item, said the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, unfazed by the lack of enthusiasm so far. As a new auction table rose up, another item came into view. It was a weapon made in a very ancient-looking style. It was shaped somewhat like a saber and about 2 meters long, with the hilt taking up a third of its length and the rest a broad, curved blade. It was a dull gray in color, and the many scratches and nicks that decorated the blade showed that it had been well used. No powerful aura emanated from it. If it weren't in this auction, it might have been mistaken for an old battle saber, nothing more. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor looked at the blade as it rose before him, then stepped back and, to everyone's surprise, bowed slightly to it in full view of the crowd. This scene stunned the entire hall. Straightening back up, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor spoke solemnly. This saber originally had no name. It belonged to a friend of mine, a comrade I should say. As you know, the Celestial Fox clan has little to show in terms of combat abilities. We typically have protectors by our side, as we are too vulnerable before reaching godhood. The owner of this war blade was my protector, and also my dearest friend. On the day of my tribulation, I was suddenly attacked. He gave his life to shield me, buying me the chance to ascend. Without him, I would not be who I am today. After his death, I kept his blade with me. Today, I bring it forth to find a new inheritor. It holds a fragment of my comrade's will. After his death, part of his divine consciousness fused with it. Over these years, I have nurtured it with the power of fortune, and it has grown. I have given it a name, Soaring Cloud. It is a symbol of will and power, and as befitting of an item that hosts my comrade's spirit, it is now a true divine item. The starting bid is 3,000 amethystin coins, with each increment no less than 100 amethystin coins. The bidding begins now. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's story was brief and not particularly thrilling, but it said everything it needed to. The Soaring Cloud Divine Blade might not be the most powerful divine item, yet it represented not only a divine item suitable for combat, but also the friendship of the Celestial Fox clan. That was the true prize. Whoever obtained this blade would surely win the friendship of the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, something that couldn't be measured in mere amethystin coins. As soon as the bidding opened, the price exploded. 5,000 amethystin coins. The first bid jumped dramatically, and it didn't even come from the VIP rooms but from outside. Anyone participating in this auction, even those outside the VIP rooms, was undoubtedly a powerhouse. Not just anyone could afford something. 5,500 amethystin coins, VIP Room 6. The Behemoth clan had always been close allies of the Celestial Fox clan. Unlike the Dragon and Phoenix races, their numbers were lacking, and they needed support. The price kept climbing, mostly in increments of 500. Tang San in VIP Room 8 couldn't help but be speechless. These bidders thought that if they won this blade, they'd get the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor's blessing in the Emperor's tournament? What a fantasy! If the Celestial Fox clan directly interferes in the tournament, wouldn't that trigger a war with the Solstice Empire? And as for friendship with the Celestial Fox clan, isn't that just up to the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor himself? Whatever happens depends on who ends up buying it. Tang San glanced at the saber. Indeed, it contained a strong battle will, but calling it a divine item was a bit of a stretch. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor is really something else. Now this is clearly a money grab. This was a real fool's tax, and something Tang San had no intention of paying. Fortunately, he was a denizen of the Solstice Empire, so no one expected him to flatter the Empyrean Dominion. He wasn't interested, but that didn't mean no one else was. The price kept going up and quickly surpassed 10,000 amethystine coins, a weapon worth at most 1,000, and that even with the special auction prices going for over 10,000. What madness! Tang San could only sit back and watch the drama unfold. In the end, the Soaring Cloud Divine Blade was won for 11,300 amethystine coins by an anonymous buyer not from a VIP room. Most of the auction's participants were silently sighing. So many rich fools. The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was obviously very pleased with the price, and his smile grew wider. 3 items in, and none of them had been particularly rare or valuable. This actually made Tang San focus even more. If the first 3 were so lackluster, that could only mean the later ones would be truly precious. Otherwise, how could this mega auction conclude properly? Could the final items really be less valuable than the opening ones? That would be a complete disaster. After pocketing a hefty sum from his performance, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor moved on to the 4th item. When this 4th item appeared, it drew a chorus of gasps from the entire hall. It was a statue about half a meter tall, carved from transparent crystal. The statue depicted a human figure, gazing resolutely into the distance, both hands resting on a long sword with its tip touching the ground. The moment the statue appeared, the air began to hum faintly. An incredibly sharp sword intent pierced straight through the clouds that had been blocking the sun, creating what looked like a hole in the sky. A beam of sunlight shone directly down on the statue like a divine sign. This statue was personally carved by the Sword Saint Demon Emperor. It took him 100 days to make and contains a sealed strand of his sword intent. It is a one-time use divine item, equivalent to a full power strike from the Sword Saint Demon Emperor. When the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor began his introduction, many people felt a bit odd. It felt like these emperors were just using this auction as an excuse to rake in money. First there was the Soaring Cloud Divine Blade, and now a statue carved by the Sword Saint Demon Emperor. These weren't really divine items. The starting bid is 3,000 amethystine coins, with each increment no less than 100 amethystine coins. The bidding begins now, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor said, not bothering with further explanation. It was clear. A single full power strike from the Sword Saint Demon Emperor, and that was that. Unlike the Soaring Cloud Divine Blade, this statue was instantly met with a cold reception. For a good minute, no one even offered the opening bid. Once was enough, but twice? The Soaring Cloud Divine Blade already felt like a fool's tax, and this was even worse. It was a consumable. Moreover, the so-called full power strike of the Sword Saint Demon Emperor. Just how powerful was that, really? Who could say but the Sword Saint Demon Emperor himself? Apart from the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor, the Sword Saint Demon Emperor was ranked lowest in the Empyrean Dominion. He rarely made much noise. In the eyes of most, he was the weakest of the emperors. 3,000 amethystine coins wasn't a small number. It was the starting bid for a top-grade divine item. Spend it for one attack of the weakest emperor? Hardly worth it. Well, most bidders thought it wasn't worth it. Some begged to differ. 3,000 amethystine coins, VIP Room 8. Yes, it was Tang San who bid first this time, breaking the awkward silence. The wastrel bids again? That was the first reaction of most bidders when they heard the bid from VIP Room 8. Based on the earlier bids, they saw VIP Room 8 as the Deep Pockets Shallow Brain Cortex group. Well, in all fairness, the Sword Saint Demon Emperor's statue might not be much use to others, but for the Blue Gold Tree clan it actually made sense. After all, that clan wasn't known for its combat prowess. Having an item that could unleash an Emperor's strike would be a huge boon, even if it was a bit overpriced. But this thing wasn't remotely on the level of the Godslaying Shuttle, at least not an intact Godslaying Shuttle. Divine items couldn't just produce Emperor-level attacks, they could also block them, and most of them were certainly not consumables. So 3,000 amethystine coins still seemed too steep for most bidders. 3,000? You guys are really selling chaff for gold and wheat for copper. Tang San thought silently in VIP room 8. He knew the Sword Saint Demon Emperor's abilities better than anyone, in a certain sense. After all, it was none other than Tang San's own Azura sword that had taught this emperor the true meaning of the sword. The strongest sword must be a king's sword, a sword of justice and judgment. And from there, he had drawn his own conclusion. The power of the sword comes from the heart, and in order to grasp the strongest sword, one's heart must be pure and entirely dedicated to the sword. The Sword Saint Demon Emperor's token, of which Tang San once had several, could indeed store a single strike. This statue that had taken over 100 days to carve contained, without a doubt, far more than that. It likely held all the Emperor's insights and understanding of the sword, refined through this creation process. Its true value was far beyond that of a typical divine item, though of course the average bidder couldn't see that. The Red Crown Crane clan didn't know how to market it, and the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor was only a casual acquaintance of the Sword Saint Demon Emperor, so he didn't bother hyping it up. That was why the statue seemed unwanted. 3,000 amethystine coins going once. Any higher bids? The Celestial Fox Demon Emperor asked from the stage. 3,100 amethystine coins, VIP room 3. The Phoenix race placed a bid this time. 3,200 amethystine coins, VIP room 8. Tang San bid again, but not too aggressively. He didn't want to draw too much attention. This move only made most other bidders lose interest. If even the rich fool of the Blue Gold Tree clan wouldn't pay more, then clearly it wasn't worth much. The first 4 of the final 10 items had indeed been a letdown. The sword and tint around the statue was starting to fade. The shaft of sunlight also gradually disappeared, making it seem even more unremarkable. No new bids came. Just 3 rounds of bidding decided the statue's fate. In the end, Tang San secured the Sword Saint Demon Emperor's statue for 3,200 amethystine coins. Excellent. Tang San's smile grew broader, and this time, it seemed that everyone in the room was on the same page. Wow! An Emperor-level attack. This is awesome, Jin Miaosen said excitedly. Compared to artifacts that required personal skill to use, she much preferred something that could just unleash a powerful attack by itself. It was also a powerful deterrent that the Blue Gold Tree clan now held. The other elders felt the same. In their eyes, this was exactly the sort of item that held real value for their clan. 4 of the final 10 items were gone. 6 remained. The auction hall's energy had clearly dropped, though. The disappointment in the earlier items was undeniable. They were said to be divine artifacts, but were they truly? Bring up the 5th auction item, said the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, seemingly unconcerned with the ebb and flow of the participants' excitement. At that moment, the entire auction stage began to tremble faintly. Then, astonishingly, the entire massive stage slowly rose up as a terrifying aura erupted from below. Ruwahoa air. A fierce dragon's roar echoed through the heavens. The earth-shaking roar made many of the weaker bidders in the auction hall turn pale with fright. What the hell is that? As the stage rose, it revealed a giant cage beneath. Yes, a cage. It had thick bars made of an unknown material, and it was reinforced with several arrays. And inside that cage was a creature. It looked somewhat like a massive dragon, about 30 meters long and with a pair of huge wings on its back. Its head was quite large even relative to its body, and it sported a single 3-meter-long horn. Its entire body was covered in jagged, uneven scales, making it appear both aesthetically unpleasant and incredibly menacing. Its scales were a dark purple color, and it had only 2 strong-looking hind legs, no forelimbs, and an oversized head that seemed out of proportion. But none of that diminished the terrifying aura it exuded. Within that overwhelming draconic might, there seemed to be boiling a will to destroy everything around it. Around its neck was a massive metal collar, engraved with all manner of runes. As it roared, the runes on the collar lit up one by one. This bizarre, ugly dragon-like being immediately began to struggle madly. Its massive body slammed against the cage, making the bars ring like a heavy bronze bell. Waves of crushing pressure continuously radiated outward. Enough! Quiet down now. A white light emerged from the celestial fox demon emperor's hand, descending onto the dragon's collar and causing it to turn white. Only then did the monstrous dragon gradually calm down. It then opened its massive maw, revealing a mouthful of razor-sharp teeth. Seeing this dragon, Tang San couldn't help but shiver slightly. This creature actually resembled one he was intimately familiar with. It was like a tyrant dragon from his previous life. If not for the wings sprouting from its back, they would have been practically identical. He knew the creature very well, since his son had a tyrant dragon as a soul spirit. The only actual difference was that this creature was far more ferocious and appeared to be far less intelligent. The sheer bloodlust in its scarlet eyes showed it had no sanity at all. This is our 5th auction lot today, provided by Crystal City. The dragons call it the Scourge Dragon. As you may have already understood, it's a mutated dragon. In some ways its mutation was a success. It possesses an extremely powerful body, and an exceedingly rare bloodline power attribute that grants it immense destructive power. However, the mutation also caused a huge side effect, namely that its mind is forever trapped in a state of confusion and madness. Once unleashed, it attacks anything indiscriminately. After plenty of research, the dragon race developed an array collar that can be used to temporarily control it. Unfortunately, the control can't last more than 5 minutes before the collar must put it to sleep again. Otherwise, it will turn on its master. In our tests, during its berserk eruptions, its strength approached that of an emperor, and its toughness may even surpass an emperor's. The issue is that, precisely because of this strength and toughness, maintaining the collar's arrays requires extremely expensive resources, so the dragon race has decided to put it up for auction. As the celestial fox demon emperor explained, the auction hall, which had cooled off a bit, instantly grew fervent again. Almost 99% of the bidders had never heard of a scourge dragon, but they could all feel its terrifying might. No one here was below the 7th order, so they could truly sense the horror of the scourge dragon's aura. Its aura was orders of magnitude more terrifying than that of a normal dragon, and the celestial fox demon emperor confirmed that it was close to the emperor level. Even if it could only be controlled for 5 minutes at a time, even if there was a risk of losing control, this was obviously far more powerful than something like the Sword Saint Demon Emperor statue. After all, it could be used however many times it was needed. With enough resources, one could become a dragon knight, an almost mythical concept on the demon continent. You dragons really are something. To think you'd sell your own kin. Even if it's mutated and insane, isn't it still one of yours? Don't you fear your people's hearts hardening to stone? Tang San inwardly called out to Crystalline. Crystalline was silent at first, not immediately responding. Meanwhile, on the auction stage, the celestial fox demon emperor continued. I trust you can all see the value of this scourge dragon. My recommendation is that whoever bids for it should have an emperor among their ranks. If control is lost, at least an emperor can intervene to prevent unnecessary disaster. The auction begins now. The starting bid is 8,000 amethystine coins, and the minimum increment is 100. 8,000. That was the highest starting price so far in the auction, but it made sense. This was a fully grown fierce beast with deterrent power close to an emperor's, and the chance to live out the Dragon Knight fantasy was priceless. Though controlling it wouldn't be easy, it also wasn't impossible. Moreover, for many clans, the chance to acquire even a small amount of high-tier dragon blood was worth the price. The chance was not high, but maybe that bloodline could help them cultivate their own powerful variants. 8,000 amethystine coins, VIP Room 1. The first one to throw in a bid was the representative of the Scorching Sunflower clan. 8,100 amethystine coins. The next bid didn't even come from a VIP room. It was an anonymous person from the stands. The bidding instantly heated up, one bid after another ringing out. Meanwhile, Tang San was more interested in what his daughter had to say. Dad, could I ask you for something? Crystalline's divine consciousness ripple carried a note of unease. I suppose you want me to buy it? Tang Sen asked. Crystalline was silent for a moment before replying. Do you know how my crystal dragon bloodline came to be? Across all clans, whether demons or nymphs, research into bloodlines and their development has never stopped. But no one among demons has studied this as thoroughly or as obsessively as the dragon race. You see, dragons have a particular problem when it comes to producing progeny. The time it takes a female dragon to produce a viable egg is 10 years at the least. And if she's injured or experiences battles during that time, it often leads to complications. As a result of these complications, sometimes the half-formed dragon egg shatters, and the fetus dies. We dragons are really resilient, and sometimes the dragonling can be born directly, but if that happens it will inevitably be in an extremely weak state. These dragonlings usually die not too long after that, because they aren't developed enough in the beginning to survive by themselves. Because of that, there's a rule. Any dragonling born like that must undergo a bloodline mutation experiment. Because if it succeeds, it will have a chance to survive and thrive, a second chance at life. You mean to tell me you were one of these, right? Tang San said. Yes. I am the most successful example. I'm sure you've heard that I am the result of a dark dragon and a radiant dragon mating, but that's not the full truth. My bloodline was artificially hybridized with some others. Later, I was able to commune with the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor's celestial pillar, which helped me become the first emperor among these mutated dragons. But my success is just one story among many. Most of the others failed. And dying wasn't even the worst fate. The parents of dragonlings born this way must hand them over to the clan and cut off all ties. These dragonlings will never know their parents, and the parents will never find them again. Once the mutation is complete, their appearance changes so much that even their birth parents wouldn't recognize them. Those who don't die because of these experiments suffer all kinds of mutations, some stranger than others. Actually, being reduced to a rudimentary, almost unintelligent being scourge dragon you see here is not uncommon at all. The dragon race has a whole system for controlling these mindless mutant dragons, and they are kept caged in secret. If there's ever a war targeting the dragon race, these dragons will be unleashed. These dragons are called puppet dragons, and the puppet dragon core is truly fearsome. At its peak, there were over 100 of them. When they go berserk, they're even stronger than normal dragons, and this scourge dragon is one of the strongest puppet dragons ever created. Its power is near emperor level to begin with, and its destructive energy makes it one of a kind. If its mind had been intact, it could very well have been my successor. You wouldn't know about this, and in fact most people don't, but behind the dragon race's strength there's a history filled with endless tragedy.